Hello, welcome to our bumper season preview. There's a lot to get through, so I'll keep this short and sweet. From Blackpool to West Brom, we've spoken to fans of as many championship clubs as we possibly could to just get a rundown before Friday's kickoff for the EFL 2024-25 championship season. So there's players to watch, transfer windows, one change and make at their clubs, predictions of who wins the league, runners-up, who goes down, all that jazz, and everything you sort of need to know to get ready for, as I said, Friday's kickoff.
Hello, I am Robert from the Blackburn Rovers podcast, Kidder Street Noise. You can find us on our YouTube channel at Kidder Street Noise, and you'll also find us next season as a show as part of the 4,000 Holes podcast. I'm here today to do my championship season preview for the upcoming season based on I'd say fairly positive now. No, maybe not actually. I think some people would disagree. Last season was one to forget. It started off pretty promising, and around the January transfer window, I think the backroom relationships between the manager and the higher ups had slightly fallen apart, or I say slightly, definitely fallen apart. The morale around the club wasn't very good, and when John Eustace came in, we were in dire straits. I think we'd only won 1 in 13 or something ridiculous like that, and eventually we managed to get the wins to keep us up. 2 unlikely wins, Leeds away and Leicester away. But yeah, when John Eustace came in, it was all about staying in the division, and some good cup moments, beating Wrexham at home with a sold out Wrexham end. Newcastle in the cup was a good night, taking them all the way to penalties. But yeah, as a season as a whole, not one to remember. And the big talking point will be the owners' court case, 20th of August. We'll decide whether the owners will continue the way they are doing it, or whether they'll be allowed to send more money across. That'll determine a lot of things in the second half of the season, I'm guessing. That's going to be the big talking point. This season could be different because I don't think it could. It's going to be a struggle no matter what happens. If the court case goes swimmingly well, we can invest millions and maybe it might change, but I can't see it myself. The fans' opinion of the gaffer is it's actually improved over the summer since he started asking for more things from the owners. I think when he first came in and he was we need to stick together, we're sick of this victim mentality, the club needs to be together. I think it grew tiresome on a lot of fans very quickly because we've had no communication from the owners of the board for so long. For someone to come in and start saying that we need to be together, we need to be positive, just like you've only been here a couple of months. And I think now he's got his first transfer window and realised the actual challenges he's dealing with and knows why we're so upset. I think his relationship with the fans will improve. Still got a lot to prove. I think it was 3 wins since his time. I know he got a lot of draws, made us hard to beat, but fans want to see you win games. So yeah, we'll see how he gets on. I think if we don't get the signings that he wants over the line before the end of this transfer window and we start poorly, I think he could walk. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Our transfer window has gone, as it stands, well. We haven't sold Smodic yet. We've sold Gallagher, which is like a big chunk of wages off the wage bill. We've signed some players. McFadson's come back on a 1-year deal. We signed Yuki Ohashi, Mac Tegay, and another young French lad. I mean, they're very unheard of and very untested at this level, so we'll have to see how they get on, but at least we've made some signings at this point. Our new signing to watch out for will be Yuki Ohashi. He got 12 goals in the J League last campaign, expected goals of around 12.5, so he's not just had a one-off season, he's getting the right place at the right time and getting the right chances. The team that he played for actually created the most expected goals in the league, in the J League last year, so whether that's because of his movement or because the players around him, we'll find out when he actually comes to us, when it actually starts for us this season. Our key player will be Ryan Hedges, the most creative one by a long way. If he stays fit, he can make a difference. Or Sam Smodic if he stays. I've based all these predictions on whether Smodic stays or goes, but the one change I'll make at the club will be CEO, definitely. Everyone who's watched or listened to the podcast will know how much of a negative impact he's had on the club. He's in a protected position where he isn't under any pressure whatsoever, makes some hideous decisions, and the attendances have fallen even further. I think we've sold 4,000 adult season tickets. the prices are too high. The club's just being run down from the inside out, and every decision that he makes, whether that be a cost cutting decision or just, I feel like he's doing it on purpose now to wind people up. But yeah, that's I think if we change that, the CEO and the people that answer to the CEO be a club on the rise again, like a lot of teams have figured out. Look at Coventry. Like once they get rid of that person, things start looking up then. And at least looking forward to playing which club? Burnley. I know a lot of people are surprised that they hired Scott Parker, but I just feel like where the two clubs are at the minute, a lot of people get excited for local derbies. I can't remember the last time he scored against them, never mind like got a win against them. The first game being early on away at Turf Moor, if we start poorly and they start well, it could be a horrible... I mean, last season's trip to Turf Moor was horrible, but yeah, I could see it being worse this season, which is scary. My thoughts on this season's home kit are good, probably the best we've had for a while. It's a remake of the 92-94 kit. I know it's the 30-year anniversary of the 1995 season, and people keep referring it to a 95 remake, which it isn't. If you look at the 92-94 kit, like the actual full kit, this season's full kit is an actual replica of that. Like everything's the same down to the socks and shorts. So love it. Just wish people would stop referring to it as the 95 kit. Championship League winners will be Leeds. Runners-up will be West Brom. That's what I'm going for. I think Carlos Corberán given a full season and they've recruited well. I can't see the three that came down doing that well, which was different to last year because I thought straight away Leicester and Southampton would do well. One team to make the playoffs, my dark horses are Sheffield Wednesday. Danny Roll did really well last year. Towards the end of last year, I think they were like 6 in the form table, like towards the end of last season to eventually keep them up. I can see them making the playoffs this year if Danny Roll stays. For Sheffield Wednesday, I'm sure they'll be hoping that he stays and helps them get up the table. The 3 teams I'm predicting to go down are QPR, Oxford and Hull City. It was Blackburn Rovers, I was predicting us, but we have actually made some signings now, so I think we'll be alright. But yeah, QPR, Armstrong's gone now, I think. They've not recruited well. Oxford, I just think it's too much of a step up for them. Hull City have lost a lot of key players in the summer and not recruited well at all. And I think they've just missed out on Thomas Asante as well. Someone else has poached them from them. And then last prediction is where we'll finish. So Blackburn Rovers will finish 21st this season. Thank you. Hope all the clubs in the Championship have a prosperous season. Well, I don't actually. Hope all the fans enjoy it no matter what. And tune into Kidder Street Noise for all the updates on Blackburn Rovers this season. Thank you very much. See you in a bit.
Right, I'm Ben from the Robins on Tour YouTube channel. Bristol City fan, home and away. And hoping it'll be a little bit better than mid-table this year, but we'll get onto that a bit later. So, our transfer window, it's been quite good, if I'm being honest. We haven't really lost anyone of great significance just yet. There's a lot of rumours around Tommy Conway leaving. I'm expecting him to leave, but where is the big question. I think Middlesbrough have put in a £5 million bid. We've heard that Burnley are also interested. We're a swap deal. Obviously, we want to try and get Scott Twine back, and I think the defender McNally as well in the rumoured deal. And I think that'll be a very good deal. I was expecting us to get Twine. It'll probably be Conway plus $1 million or something, but to get Twine plus another defender for Conway would be unreal. So I'm hoping that'll come off because we haven't seen Conway at all in pre-season. Apparently he's been training with the under-21s, so of course it'll be a huge miss. But we've brought in Fally from France, I believe, as well as Armstrong from QPR, and they've looked very good in pre-season, especially Armstrong. I've been very impressed with Armstrong. Max Bird has finally come as well from Derby. Obviously we got him in the January window, but I think we sort of sent him back on loan. And then Josh Stokes from Aldershot as well, who impressed him in the game at Aldershot. So yeah, so far, so good. I'd be stupid not to expect someone of significance to leave. If it will end up being Conway, if it will end up being Conway and someone else, we're not sure yet. Obviously, there's still a month or so to go of the window, I think. 2 weeks, week and a half to go until the season starts. So our new signing to watch out for is a difficult one because Max Bird, like I said, has looked very good in pre-season, and I think he could really be a player to impress in that midfield, considering we lost, Matty James. Bringing a player like Max Bird in, I think, is going to be really good for us this year. I'm hoping it does, pull off. He was very good at Derby last season in their promotion season, scored a number of goals for them, a number of assists, controlled that midfield in League One, so we're hoping he'll be able to do the same in the Championship. I think the other one has got to be Sinclair Armstrong. He's been unreal in pre-season. I've seen him, big, strong striker, who likes to press. I think he scored in the first 40 seconds at Cheltenham, so I'm hoping he can keep that up and bring that on in the league, especially if we're losing Conway. And then our key player this season will be, if Scott Twine comes back, there's arguments that it could be Scott Twine from what we saw from the second half of last season. Like I said, Max Bird and Sinclair Armstrong as well. But I think the main one is going to be Rob Dickie again. I think we were quite good defensively last season and just lacked that bit in attack. So, where is, the key player going to lie? Because on one hand, if we keep up that defensive work we did last season and that good backline, and Rob Dickie, Zach Viner, Hayden Roberts, etc., if they have another good season, then they're going to be very key if we are trying to push on. But then again, our strikers, Sinclair Armstrong, Harry Cornick, Scott Twine if he comes back, Anis Mehmeti on the wing, Sam Bell has looked very good in pre-season. Those are the players that, again, you can't win football matches without scoring goals. I know it's cliche, but we're going to need those players to step up this season if we really do. That's a tough question, that, because I think everyone's going to need to have a good season. We just need that bit more if you know what I mean. Hopefully they'll start scoring some goals this season. One change I'd make at my club would be, tough question again, because I think we're slowly on the up now. Obviously, during lockdown we had Dean Holden, we were looking behind our shoulders. With Pearson, one week we were looking up the table, next week we're looking down. With Manning now, we're slowly just going up and up and up. The signings we've made have been very good. So I wouldn't change much at the moment. I think we're starting to make our way back up, and hopefully this season's going to be the season where we'll see if we have done anything different with the Manning. We could very well be in the same place we were last season and be mid-table, 1 week looking up, 1 week looking down. But I'm hoping this season will be different. But, well, the home kit I'm still 50-50 on. However, the away kit is beautiful. It's a beautiful kit. I don't have it on me, but I'm sure whoever's editing this can put a picture on screen now, if they can't be asked. I don't know if they can. Just look it up anyway. And then the third kit that was announced yesterday, I want to say, it's nothing special. Considering our kits last season, they've done a good job this season. Prediction part of the video now. League winners, I'm going to say, obviously still a lot to change. Leeds obviously got Somerville the other day, so they're going to need to bring some players in. Burnley have got 42 players, I think, so they're going to need to offload some players. But league winners, I think you've got to go Burnley, don't you? From seeing what they were like when they were last in the Championship, absolutely bossed it. However, what I will say is I think Coventry are going to be the sort of dark horses to get an automatic place this season. But I think it will be between one of the 24 clubs. That's not funny. It will be between Burnley, Coventry, or Leeds. It'll be one of them three. Runners up. I'm going to go runners up Coventry, I'm going to go Coventry. So I'm Burnley and Coventry automatic. One team to make the playoffs. Hull looked very good last season, but they've lost a lot of players again. I will go for, it's a tough one, Luton. That's one I missed out, actually. Luton could be one for automatic as well, but I'll go Luton for playoffs. And the dark horses, for playoffs, possibly Middlesbrough. I'd like to say us. I think I'd be lying to myself. So I'll go Middlesbrough dark horses for playoffs and Coventry dark horses for automatics. And the three teams I'm predicting to go down are Blackburn, Oxford, and it's a tough one because I think Derby and Portsmouth will be safe. So who was awful last season? Watford weren't very good. I think Watford will drop off a bit, but I don't think they'll go down. Similar with Swansea and Cardiff. I hate predicting these sort of things because you're going to look back. I'll look back at it in May and it'll be awfully wrong. Possibly Plymouth, but I think again they'll be safe. I think Preston will be fine. I'm obviously missing one off the top of my head now. Stoke, Paul. Stoke's a shout, actually. Stoke is a very good shout. Yeah, I'll go for Stoke. Stoke, Blackburn and Oxford teams to go down. And then my club, Bristol City, will finish in 9th place. We'll progress from last season. We'll finally make it back into the top 10 for the second time in the decade we've been in the Championship. But I think we're still a season or two off pushing for promotion. I think we'll be in and around there at points this season, but yeah, I think just a season off. But yeah, I'll go 9th. Thank you very much for having me. And I look forward to the season starting. Although I'm missing Hull away because I'm in Turkey, so my first game will be Coventry in the Cup. Fantastic. But anyway, thank you very much. And come on, you Reds.
Hello everyone, my name is Joe Redmond and I am a Burnley fan, obviously, from Turfcast podcast, which is obviously a Burnley, unofficial Burnley YouTube channel and podcast, and I'm just here to give my opinion on the upcoming EFL Championship season. Last season was obviously atrocious, but we were in the Premier League. The season before that was the last time we were in the Championship, and it was absolutely brilliant, so you don't really know what to expect this season as a Burnley fan, but yeah, it got to the point last season where I weren't enjoying games anymore. I didn't really fancy away games anymore. But luckily, being in the Prem, obviously you can even if it's not on TV in this country, you can find a perfectly legal streaming device and watch it anyway. But it just got to the point where I weren't enjoying it last season. Company had a certain way of playing which didn't work, and he was too stubborn to change it. And then he got the Bayern Munich job. How that's happened, I'll never know. But don't really know what to expect this year because we've got a new manager and stuff. But I'm sure we'll get into that. The big talking point is/will be. Well, the big talking point for us is just pretty much everything. Like, we don't really know what to expect from Burnley this season. We've got a brand new manager. Similar sort of players at the minute because the transfer window's still open. We haven't made too many signings yet. So I think for me, the big talking point at the minute is just how Scott Parker's going to do, how he's going to set up, how we're going to get on with him, and is he going to be well liked by the fans? Is his style of play going to be liked? Is it going to be entertaining? Because Fulham and Bournemouth fans said it wasn't at all, but it got them out of the league, and that's what he's here to do again. He's here to get us out of the league again and back into the Premier League. So I think that the manager and stuff, to be honest, and the way he's going to set up and the way Burnley are going to play, it is the big talking point. This season could be different for us because, well, we're in a different league, so that's why this season is different. Last season, as I mentioned already, was atrocious, but the gap between the EFL and the Premier League is getting bigger and bigger and bigger every single year. I'm one of them fans that I always want to be the best you can be as a football club, so I want Burnley to be in the Premier League because I want them to be dining at the top table, right? What's the point if you just want to be in the Championship forever and then finish 7th? Like, what is the point of that? But at the same time, I do prefer being in the Championship because we actually win games and we score goals, whereas the Premier League, you are literally just getting battered every single week. So, yeah, it's hard work. But, yeah, the season could be different for us this season because we're in a different league, so that is the main reason why this season could be different. The fans' opinion of the gaffer. It's hard to really talk about that one, considering the gaffer's only been here about a month. The initial appointment was met with underwhelming sort of like thoughts, and that's how I thought about it. I was underwhelmed with it. We were linked with the likes of Ruud van Nistelrooy, even though he's not got much managerial experience, it's a name, and that worked last time, so I wanted somebody like that. But recently we've come round to it a little bit. Like, I appreciate his media trained and knows what to say and when, but when I'm watching these interviews with him, I'm listening to him and thinking, he knows what to say, he knows what he's on about. But again, like I said, he's media trained and he knows what to say and when, so that's why. So yeah, at the minute, he's obviously not under pressure because he's brand new, but I do worry that Burnley fans aren't the most patient fan base in the world, and I don't know when that happened. I do feel like we were quite patient this time, 5, 6, 7 years ago, but something somewhere has changed and we are quite an impatient fan base. So I do worry that if we struggle for the first 10 games and we're not really got going, that the pressure might be on him a little bit. So yeah, obviously the fans' opinion of the appointment of him was mainly underwhelming, but fans are coming to it more and more now as he speaks. But yeah, we'll have to see how he gets on in the first few games. Our transfer window has gone. Well, our transfer, it's a difficult question to answer on the 2nd of August when I'm recording this because there's so long left. So far, it's gone okay, average, mid, nothing much has happened really. We've kept hold of most of our players, of the big name players anyway. I do expect some of them will leave, like Sander Berge and Wilson Odobert. I still expect them to leave. And the players that we've brought in have been largely unknown players from Brazil, France, so you don't really know what to expect really with some of them. Obviously, we brought in Ipswich's goalkeeper from last year, which is a good bit of business, but I believe that we're going to be looking at other goalkeepers as well because we're expecting Trafford to leave. So I don't even know if he's coming to be number one. So yeah, it's difficult to answer the transfer window question at the minute, but I'd say it's just mid-average. Our new signing to watch out for is and why. Again, difficult question to answer is that one because most of the lads we've brought in are unknowns. There's still some work to do, I think. Looking at Tommy Conway, I'd be happy with that one from Bristol City. But if I had to choose somebody just to answer the question, we've brought in a lad called Andreas Huntundre. Definitely butchered that. He's French. I know nothing about him, I'll be honest with you, but I have some contacts at the club, and they've told me he's impressed in training and in some of these behind closed doors games. And that's another thing. We haven't actually seen any of these players yet. A lot have seen your players, your teams in friendlies. All of our friendlies so far have been behind closed doors. We are actually playing against Cadiz, I think, in a couple of days over in Spain. So some fans may get to see it. I don't know if the club will stream it. There's been nothing said yet. But it's hard to answer that question because we haven't really seen any of the players yet, and a lot of them are unknown. Our key player will be, and why? I think our key player will be Luca Koleosho. He is absolutely fantastic. He's a young lad. He's fast. He's got trickery. He's brilliant. We're actually quite lucky with him in the fact that we've kept hold of him because he had a really bad injury at the start of last season. We actually bought him last summer, and then he came straight into the Premier League side and was fantastic. Then got a big injury. I think that's the only reason why we managed to keep hold of him, because teams either A, have slept on him a little bit because they don't know how much about him because of the injury, or B, they're a little worried about him because of the injury, because he had such a bad knee injury. There could be some other people in there like Wilson Odeberg if we keep him, Sander Berge if we keep him, but I suspect that them two will be off. But there could be some other players as well, like Josh Brownhill's really good in the Championship. I think Josh Brownhill's one of them players that's too good for the Championship but not good enough for the Prem. Josh Cullen, the last time we were in this league, literally won the Player of the Year, so obviously he could be mentioned in that as well. So but you tend to go for players that tricky, take the game to teams and get goals and assists. And I think Luca Koleosho could be somebody that gets quite a lot, and a lot of people will be sitting up this time in 6 months going, wow, he's a brilliant player. That's if we keep all of him, because who knows, we might lose him yet. I'm least looking forward to playing Blackburn Rovers. Now, we have the longest period of dominance in this rivalry than it's ever seen. Like, we have beaten them, I think it's 6 times in a row. That's never happened in this before. And I mean, they'll look at the fact that we didn't beat them for like 34 years, which is obviously a long time, but we didn't really play each other in that. And I don't think they've beaten us now for, I think it's 11 years, 12 years. It's a long time. But you still don't like the derby days, personally, because I'm just so nervous. I'm nervous really much, like loads in the week leading up to it. It's all I can think about. I just don't really like them. Obviously, when you win, it's amazing and it's the best feeling. But it's interesting because I actually, even though we still beat them every single time, it's obviously not going to last forever. So there's going to be a time when they get a lucky win, or they did it to Leeds last season, for example, and Leicester on the last day of the season, staying up. So it's interesting, but I do think we are better than them, and I do think we probably beat them. But you never know. They managed to beat Leeds, like I said last year, and Leicester. So they are capable of it, but I think they'll be a little bit worse this year if they lose Sammy Smodics. My thoughts on this season's home kit are, well, I'm literally wearing it, so you can make your own mind up. I quite like it. I'm not a big fan of the crest because it's a different. So it's a monochrome crest, whereas we usually have a crest with colour, and I don't know why they've got rid of the colour. Don't really make any sense to me. That's one thing I'd change on it, and the sponsor as well. I'm not really fussed that it's a betting sponsor. I know some people don't really like it. I just don't like the big 9 in a random colour. It doesn't make any sense. It was the same last year. We had a big gold W. I didn't like that either. But yeah, I like the fact all these aren't just patterns, by the way. It says like Longside written in it, which is like a famous old stand that we used to have at the turf before it got knocked down. So yeah, I quite like it. The only other thing with it is as well, it's a different shade of claret. It just seems a little bit different, a little bit lighter. I'm not really sure why we've changed it, but yeah, that's the thing for me. Sorry, league winners. I'm gonna go with Burnley. I'm not overly confident though, but I just not many great. I think it's quite open, is what I'm trying to say. I think Leeds will be decent, but they have just lost Somerville. I'm not worried too much about Luton. They've lost a lot of players. Barkley was integral to them last season, and they've lost some others as well, and they haven't really brought anybody in, so that's interesting. I think there could be teams. I think Sheffield United, people are sleeping on them because they've done some good business this year. This summer, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And there's a couple of dark horses in there as well. So I'm going to go Burnley winners and Leeds runners up, but I genuinely think it's going to be quite open. I'm not arrogant or overly confident at all. One team to make the playoffs / dark horses. Can I say Coventry? That's not really much of a dark horse, I would imagine, is it? But I think they'll be there or thereabouts, even knocking on the door of the top 2. They've had their manager for quite a while. Mark Robbins has been linked to us a couple of times. Obviously ended up not happening, but it's going to be interesting to see how they get on. And Middlesbrough as well, I think they'll be thereabouts. The 3 teams I'm predicting to go down are Blackburn Rovers. Oxford and I think Derby. I think Argyle will stay up. I think Blackburn obviously just lost Smolik, so hopefully lose him soon. And the other two just don't really have too much quality. I've already said I think we'll finish as champions. So again, I do think it'll be quite open. I don't actually think we're going to win it at a canter like last time. It's going to be interesting. I am a little bit apprehensive about the season, if I'm honest with you, because of Scott Parker. Nothing against him, but just because it's the unknown, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how we get on and stuff like that. So I do think we win it because of the players that we've got, and hopefully Parker can come up trumps. And he's obviously got 2 teams out this league already, so I think he can do it again for us.
Hello, I'm Cardiff City fan Tom Taylor from the website The Sport Addict Corner, and today I'm here to give my predictions and thoughts ahead of the 2024-25 Championship season. The last year was quite a strange season overall. On paper, I suppose it wasn't too bad, in that we managed to avoid a relegation scrap. We finished around mid-table, which is a vast improvement on the 2 seasons previous to that, and we managed to keep the same manager all season. But when it got bad, it was really poor. A lot of the time, our performances were quite flat. We didn't seem to have a consistent kind of style of play that carried on throughout the whole season. We just looked off rhythm quite a lot, and I kind of translated with how little goals we scored. We didn't score much at all. It was only something like 52 or 53 goals we scored last year, which is, really, really poor. And when you consider how excited we were at the early stages of the season, we thought maybe, this could be a year where maybe we don't challenge for the playoffs, and we don't end up in the playoffs, but at least mount a little bit of a challenge. But it wasn't something that really came to it. But, they were good times as well. The results did improve on the last 2 seasons prior. It was very nice to get some derby wins, with 2 over Bristol City and 1 over the Swans. Just to boost morale a little bit, it was the type of thing we needed. The fact that Errol Bullock kind of made this team his own, and the fact we kept him for the whole season shows that there is probably an element of trust there now, and he's been rewarded with that with a new contract. It was a bit of a talking point for a while earlier on in the summer, but he's got the deal, he's got the extension, and hopefully now he can really push on from here. I think overall he does have the backing of the fans. There's times in the season where there was a bit of discourse about whether he was the right man for Cardiff or not. But I think now that he is here, he has signed the contract, he is going to stay, I think we're going to see kind of that unity behind him now, and we're going to back him a bit for the upcoming season and see where it goes. I think is going to be the biggest kind of talking point, is where do we go from here now? Where does the Bullet project take us next? Obviously, like I said, that trust is there. There's a vision from Errol, and the board are obviously supportive of it, and they believe he can do it. It's not too kind of pie in the sky, it's not too unrealistic in that sense. So now that we have that stability, and we've gone through a season where we haven't sacked a manager, which is a bit of a rarity nowadays at Cardiff City. It's only the first time since our last season in the Premier League that we've kept a manager on for a whole season, which is insane when you think of it, because you're never going to achieve anything long term if you keep chopping and changing managers so often. So I'm glad that we didn't. I'm glad that we kept Errol Bullock on, and I think ultimately now the next kind of season is going to be exciting to see, how it is we progress and how do we get to that next step, which is ultimately trying to get that playoff place and, who knows, in the long run, try and mount a challenge to get back to the Barclays Premier League. So I've been really pleased with our transfer window so far. I think we've made some really positive moves. The type of players that we've managed to get in are not really the type of players I think we would have gone for in the last couple of years. They've played at very high level, or they've played in the Championship. They know the league. In the case of Chris Willock, I think our undoing in transfer windows in years gone by is that it's been a bit of a panic, a bit of a mad free-for-all, and we've kind of maybe brought in the wrong types of players, whether that's on loan, whether that's on a permanent deal. But so far I'm really liking our business. I'm liking what I'm seeing. So as I mentioned, we signed Chris Willock on a free from Queen's Park Rangers. We also got Callum Chambers on a free from Aston Villa, which I'm absolutely buzzing for. I think a player with that kind of experience is going to be crucial at this level. He's only ever played really in the Premier League, and you don't make a career being a Premier League defender by accident. I think he's such a good player, and I think he's really going to bolster our back line as well. And just yesterday we announced the loan signing of striker Wilfried Kanga from Hertha Berlin. I'll be honest, I didn't know too much about the guy, but the more I've looked into it, the more excited I think I am, and I think he'd be my one to watch this season, definitely, because striker was a position that we struggled a bit with last year. We didn't have that kind of consistent goal scorer for us, and it's something that did come to haunt us really a few times in the season, but I'm hoping Wilfried Kanga can be that player. I was just looking, last season he was on loan at Standard Liège in Belgium in the Jupiler Pro League, and he ended up scoring 12 goals there, which I think is really impressive. And I think with the players that we've already got and players we may end up signing, I think he'll be a really welcome addition to the team, along with the other signings that we've made so far as well. I think they'll fit in, especially with the midfield that we've got so far. Just kind of the thought of them embedding in with players like Aaron Ramsey, O'Dowda, and Ruben Colwill, who I think this year is going to be his time. He's such a good player. He's had interest from the Premier League, and rightly so. He's been capped a few times for Wales now, at all kind of age levels, including the full national team. And I think next year he's going to be one to watch, and I'm quite excited because I'm hoping that this will be the year he starts to kind of come into his own a bit and becomes that kind of Aaron Ramsey 2.0. So perhaps in a surprise to absolutely nobody, the one thing I would change about the club, and would have liked to have been changed any time in the last decade probably, ultimately is the ownership. I don't really know what Vincent Tan's idea is. He's never there. I don't think he knows much about what's ever going on at the club. We're a bit of a basket case of a team at times, and I think that just kind of shows the last few years we've had, really. We got promotion off the back of Neil Warnock and the players we had there, and a squad that kind of played for him. But ever since then, it's just been mental, and I think ultimately the buck does fall at the ownership. There are people on the board who are far more involved. Emmett Dalman and Ken Chu, they're involved more, but it's just I don't get how you can be such an absent owner. I still haven't really forgiven him for changing the colours. The first time we were ever promoted to the Premier League, since it turned to the Premier League, almost feels dirty and a bit tainted now, just because we were in red for that promotion season. We were in red the year we were up there. Like it just doesn't sit right with me, and I don't know, it just almost feels spoilt. So even though there was amazing results, like the first ever win in a South Wales derby in the Premier League, we were wearing red when we beat Man City 3-2. These are supposed to be amazing days, and they are amazing days and memories, but it's just tainted. It's the same for me every year, and I think it is for every Cardiff City fan. The game I'm dreading the most is Swansea away. We just never show up for it. The last couple of years especially has just been absolutely god-awful. Every time we play at the Liberty or the Swansea.com stadium, or whatever it's called nowadays, we just fall to pieces. I don't know if the occasion gets to us or what, and I'm just glad it's early in the season and we're getting it out of the way early doors. But yeah, Swansea away, I'm already starting to dread. So in terms of our kit this year, I'm a big fan. It was going to have to be something special because it's our 125th anniversary year. And to be fair, I think New Balance have got it right. I was, a little bit anxious maybe, just because it's such a landmark year for the club, and I thought, we're going to have something special to commemorate it. But I really like it. I like the badge that we've got. It's a throwback to sort of an older, more retro style one. And yeah, there are limited complaints from me. Overall, I would give it an 8 out of 10. So for some quick final predictions from me, I think Leeds are going to go up this year as champions. They came very close last time around. This time, I think they're going to go that one better. They got a very, very good squad. They've invested sound in the summer. And yeah, I think they'll go up without any real hassle. I can see Burnley coming second. They've got a decent enough team, but also there's the Scott Parker factor. And every time he's been in this division, he's ended up getting promoted, and I don't really see that changing now. In terms of playoff dark horse, I'm going with Hull City. I like the kind of football they played at times last year. They brought in some decent players so far. A couple of ex-Cardiff City boys in there as well. So I can see them having a decent season. Relegation, it's hard to call. I am going to go with Oxford, Derby and Blackburn to go down. Sorry, guys. And where I think Cardiff are going to finish, I'm going with the heart over the head. With the signings that we've brought in and with a couple more bodies in before the end of the window, I'm going to say that we do the playoff push and we are going to finish 6th this year. So thanks for listening to what I have to say, and I cannot wait for all these to age absolutely horrendously very quickly.
Hi, my name's Glenn and I'm part of the All Things Sky Blue podcast. As you can see, that's our logo. You can find us on Spotify, all podcast channels. We're also on YouTube, TikTok, X, Facebook, yeah, pretty much everything. So yeah, I'm a Coventry City fan. Last season was a case of if only, really. We had a relatively poor start. Then we clicked into gear around October time, went on a really good run of form. And then the wheels kind of came off. We lost away at Norwich 2-1 after being 1-0 up. Then picked up a few key injuries to key players and kind of never really recovered it. And we ended the season on a real bad run of form. I guess the FA Cup semi-final kind of did act as a distraction. You'd be lying if you said it didn't. The week before against Birmingham City, where we were absolutely atrocious. Yeah, then go to Wembley, 3-0 down, dead and buried, pull it back to 3-3, go to a penalty shootout. Man United missed the first penalty. And then we missed 2, one of which Captain Ben Sheaf skied it, which you back your house on him hitting the target minimum. So yeah, we lost that. And then it was just a hangover, and really we just stumbled. So it was disappointing. Do I think that West Brom and Norwich were miles better than us? Probably not. And yeah, we just weren't really on it for the last month of the season, unfortunately. The big talking point at the moment, obviously, with Coventry City is the fact that our number 2, Adi Ash, has left the club. He was announced on the first day back of pre-season training. He'd left. Kind of come as a big, massive surprise. Him and Mark Robins have been a real, double act that have basically seen us back from League 2 up to the Championship and very nearly back into the Premier League. So that's a bit of a strange one, why he's left. It all seems a bit mysterious. So he's gone. We bought former Cardiff City fans' favourite George Boateng's coming as coach. And Reece Carr, who's been at Wolves, Sheffield United, Bristol City, very much development coach. So it'll be interesting to see how they fit in. Callum O'Hare's obviously left. It was kind of expected. Am I disappointed where he's gone? Yeah, I think he's shown his kind of true colours. Dummy out. Because Mark Robins dropped him because he was not on it and he was pulling out challenges, etc. And yeah, he threw his toys out. Probably he wasn't going to sign, and he's gone to Sheffield United because they've offered him the best deal. Is the best move for his career? We'll judge it in 12 months' time when we see where Sheffield United finish in the Championship. Jack Redoney's come in. He's looked really promising. So that's a positive. We've also bought Louis Spinks back from his loan spell last season. He's another good acquisition. We have also bought in from Mason Clark, who was at Peterborough. We'd already agreed the deal in January to bring him on. He's someone, if you listen to Posh fans, he's really impressive. And Darragh McAntony really rates him. I think he's going to be one of the standout performers for the Sky Blues. We've also brought in a new goalkeeper, Swedish international goalkeeper, Oliver Dovin, who basically I think is going to be our new number 1. Brought a few younger talents in. There's a young Australian winger called Rafael Borges Rodriguez, who will be someone who we're interested to see how he gets on. The new signing that I would say is the one to watch for Cov will be Jack Redoney, for the reason stated. He's pretty much looks is going to be our main fulcrum and playmaker and whatever you want to call it. But yeah, he looks like he's going to be our main player to watch out for in terms of new signings. Key player, I think it's going to be a flip up between Ben Sheaf and Hadji Wright. We need Hadji Wright to kind of show the form that he showed in the games against Man United and Leeds, etc. Not the Hadji Wright who kind of got bullied in the games against Preston and a few of the other games where he was a bit non-existent, and Birmingham City away was one where he was not particularly on it. But him and Sheaf are vital to our system. Hadji Wright, in terms of creating goals, his pace, his ball carrying, and also his finishing, he's probably the best finisher we've got at the club, I would say. And Ben Sheaf, when he plays, and he plays well, obviously the games against Wolves and Man United, he stood out like a sore thumb in terms of the quality against them. One change I would make at our club would be, I wish our owner Doug King would listen to the fans a bit more and consult them before making decisions. He's made a few decisions over the summer that regarding like ticketing and pricing and family zones, etc. And it's just caused a bit of unnecessary aggro with the fan base, when I think if just common sense, and we've got a supporters group in place, speak to them and just canvass the opinion. Next season, who I'm least looking forward to playing, Preston away or Preston at home, because we never beat them anyway. They're just a bogey side for us. And staying at Swansea as well. Swansea are a team that we never beat. So those two are particular games that I don't particularly look forward to. In terms of our kit, I think our kit's really, really good. I like the Coventry emblem on it. So yeah, that's something that's really, really good, and Hummel smashed it again. In terms of league winners, I'd love to say Coventry City, but I'll be realistic. I probably think Leeds, if they keep the players they've got, will be there or thereabouts, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone like Middlesbrough comes in the mix. I'm going to go runners up. I'm going to go for Cov. My heart's going to overrule my head. Team I definitely think will make the playoffs, minimum, will be Luton. And a couple of dark horses I would throw into the mix will be, I think Middlesbrough, as I said, have gone under the radar. I don't think people have picked up on them. They finished the season really well. Wouldn't surprise me if Stoke actually get their act together for once. Purely just as a bit of a random pick, I'm going to go for Sheffield Wednesday. I think they could have a good season as well. And the three teams that I'm predicting will go down, I don't think Plymouth will go down. I've just got a sneaky feeling Wayne Rooney's going to get his act together. I think Preston is an outsider to go down. I think that's definitely one. Hull, depending on the business, alarm bells start worrying when you get rid of a good manager, and it just obviously throws back to what happened with Birmingham. So I'm probably going to say Derby and Portsmouth are going to go down with Preston, but it wouldn't surprise me if you see Hull, maybe a Bristol City, Cardiff, one of them kind of languishing around the bottom six. And for Coventry City, yeah, as I said earlier, my minimum expectation is top six. The problem is we've got like 5-6 injuries now at the moment, and so we're going to have to do some business and get some bodies through the door. Otherwise, we're going to end up having a lot of academy players playing. But yeah, I don't get the hype about Burnley. Certainly don't get the hype about Sheffield United. So yeah, I don't think those four Leeds, Sheffield United, Burnley, Luton will be the top four in the Championship next season. I'm pretty sure there'll be some changes. I think there's a bunch of teams who are very, very much of a muchness, and I think it depends on their business in the next month will determine where they will finish.
Hello, everybody. It's Corey here from the Rams Review podcast. We're really excited. I'm pleased that I was able to come on and do this, and really looking forward to another season back in the Championship. Last season was pretty good for Derby. We finished with our highest ever points total as we finished second in League One to come back up to the Championship. We broke a smattering of other records, including our most ever away victories in a season as well. So it was overall a pretty good season for the Rams. The big talking point this season will be, can Derby adapt back to the Championship? Can our players who played so well in League One get back up to Championship level? And how will we cope with the rigors of a Championship season? Now, the season could be a bit different because we've had a lot of turnover once again in players. We've basically had to rebuild the midfield a little bit. And it's the first season back in the championship under a new owner. So seeing what directions and how he wants to take things will be massively interesting. Paul Warren is the manager currently at Derby. I think he'll be under a little bit of pressure if Derby are continuing to languish under the waterline and in the bottom third of the championship. I think he's very well liked by the coach. He's a very, very nice man. Is he the right coach for Derby? Who knows? Time will tell on that. But I think there are periods where people can turn on him. We saw it last year against Shrewsbury. The fans completely turned against him. The owner, stuck to his guns, kept his powder dry, kept Paul Warren in there, and we were rewarded with promotion. So I think he'll be under a bit of pressure if he's in the relegation zone come Christmas time. But as we all know in this level, 3 or 4 games lost, and all managers are kind of under pressure. Our transfer window's gone pretty well so far. We've brought in 3 or 4 or 5 signings so far. We obviously need another. I think we need another 8 before the window closes, just for depth and for quality purposes. But I think generally Derby fans are a little happy. A deal or two has kind of drug a little bit, which always gets people a little bit worried about stuff. But that's football. It's negotiations behind the scenes, so we just have to sit back and trust the process. But I think so far we're happy. But with that being said, we need about another 8 signings. I know the manager said that. I think us Derby fans, we recognize that as well. So plenty more through the door at Pride Park before the end of the transfer window. I think the new signing to watch out for is David Ozo from Crystal Palace. We brought him in on loan. The young lad had played a few Premier League games last season, notably against Manchester City and Liverpool. A very, very big lad, physical presence, good feet. So it'll be exciting to see how he reacts to Derby. And the other one to look out for is Ibu Adams, a player that we had on loan in League One last season that signed for us permanently from Cardiff. And it'll see how he adapts to the championship and in a club where he feels that he can be successful. So that'll be really interesting. Our key player is probably going to be at the back in terms of either Curtis Nelson or Aaron Cashin, one of the 2 center halves. Defensively, Derby were very solid last season, so hopefully we can continue that. Next season, Cashin had some experience. Last time we were in the championship, Curtis Nelson's had a few years in the championship as well. So they're both very, very key. And the other key player up front is Nathaniel Mendez-Lang, who was fantastic in League One for us, has been fantastic for 2 years for us. But to see how he adapts back to the championship after having, in different spells at various different clubs at the level before. So it'll be exciting to see how he adapts with his pace and his trickery and his goal threat. Derby will certainly need it. One change I'd make at the club, I would probably change some things in the front office in terms of the chief executive and things like that. But, outside of that, the club's going pretty swimmingly at the moment, and there's not really much that we can change that would make a significant impact, because I think the house has been thoroughly cleared. I'm at least looking forward to playing. There's a myriad of clubs that kind of seem a little scary with the transfer business that they're doing, paying big fees and things like that. So there's a lot of clubs there, and it's never nice to go to Ellen Road with their fan base off of, with kind of the history that we've had from them historically and things like that. And they'll be gearing up for another run. Am I not looking forward to playing them? No, but there's a lot of teams in there that are going to be tough games. Both the home kit and the away kit are kind of meh for me. It's white, black shorts, black socks. I do love it when we do have black socks in a Derby kit. So, it's an average kit. I think it could have been better. It could have been worse, certainly. But it's black and white and has a Ram on it. So that's the most important thing. I think the winners of the league, you've got to look at Burnley, having come down, having been in the championship, the previous season and having, over, triple digit points, I believe. New manager in Scott Parker. So it'll be interesting to see how they adapt back to the league. So there's certainly a team that I'm looking out for. Runners up, too close to call. I think there's 7 or 8 teams, Coventry might be up there as well. That are probably going to be in and around it. And it's the championship, so there's a large, ability to toss up things there. Dark horse to make the playoffs, probably Millwall might make a run. You could make the case for Oxford, although I necessarily wouldn't. I think Millwall's done quite well in their transfer business so far, kind of sneaking under the radar. Teams to go down, I would probably say Derby at this point. Oxford, Plymouth will probably be down there as well. Sheffield Wednesday. Any 3 of those 4 at the moment, but it depends obviously on a lot till the transfer business until the end of the year. Derby, I hope we finish above the waterline. If we finish in the lower third and above the drop zone, I'll be perfectly happy with that. And just really excited to be back in the championship. Excited to see how this group of players that did well last year adapt back to the championship, and also excited to see how our new signings integrate. And we should hopefully be bringing in a couple of more players before the window finishes. A player I'm excited about seeing is Kenzo Houtman that we bought from AZ Alkmaar. He looks a real prospect, a real find. So hopefully he can adapt to the rigors of the championship. And hopefully Jerry Yates, on loan from Swansea, can refine his goal scoring form that he had at Blackpool and be that goal scoring threat that Derby need, because goals win games, and we need to score goals in this team in order to stay in this division. But just really excited to be back in the championship, to compete, and looking forward to a fun and exciting year.
Hi, this is Adonis Storr from the Roaring Peacock podcast, and I've been asked to do a bit of a 24-25 championship season preview for Leeds. Firstly, last season. So it was a rocky start, rough start. Obviously getting relegated, lack of confidence, conceding over 150 goals in the previous 2 seasons, having, 4 managers, ending with Big Sam Allardyce. Disarray, change of ownership, new manager, new tactics, new team, players leaving on loan, threatening to sue the club if they weren't allowed to leave. But Farke, after that rough start, I thought he did really well in building a really great team spirit, settled on an excellent defence, stable, solid. Certainly after the turn of the year, put a magnificent run together, and 90 points. Good enough for promotion for almost every year, apart from, I think, Sunderland in 98, 99, and of course Leeds United. The biggest talking point of this season, I think that the questions are of this squad: can they go again? Will the transfer gambles, selling Gray and Somerville, and then whoever they bring in, will they work? Will those transfer? Was it the right thing to do to sell Archie Gray? Who knows? So some of these things, and whoever they bring in to replace Somerville, obviously it's going to be very difficult to replace 28 goals. So I think that's the biggest talking point is, can they do it again? This season could be different because Leeds young players, they're older, they're 1 year more experienced, they know what the championship is about, and I think they're deserved favourites. And I think the championship itself, I think, is a little weaker, maybe, without Leicester, without Ipswich, without Southampton. What is the fans' opinion on the manager? I think there's a lot of love for Daniel Farke. I think he was brilliant last season, like I said, in sort of turning that rough start around. But it's always going to be difficult. It always was going to be difficult for any manager that came after Marcelo Bielsa. The fervour, calling him God, each press conference being like the Sermon on the Mount. There were just so many little things with Bielsa, his personality. I think it's just very difficult to follow for anybody. But there's a lot of goodwill with Farke. I think he did very well last season, but he's got to do it this year. He has to do it this year. And if it does go wrong, or it starts to go wrong, I think people might get a bit tetchy. We've got a great squad, maybe the best squad in the championship. So, and Leeds United Leeds expects. The transfer window, thoughts on that? Well, I think we're weaker, but that was always going to happen. When you don't get promoted, you miss out on whatever it is, £170 million. And you have to sell because they don't want to be in breach of the rules. But I think Joe Rodon was a massive boost. I think we'd have been in real trouble if we hadn't have brought him back, simply because he's just been absolutely outstanding, shored the defence up. If you watch him, or more likely if you listen to him when you're close to the touchline, he is at everybody, organising everything. He's just so solid, an absolute massive boost. And you have to look at, players like Bogle, players like Rothwell, they're going to have to prove themselves. Aronson and Verber have come back in. They weren't in the squad last season, so I guess that's almost like a new signing. we'll just have to see. We look a bit weaker. Obviously, Somerville going. Obviously, Gray, generational talent going. 28 goals, very difficult to replace. Archie Gray, extremely difficult to replace. The one new signing to look out for is Joe Rodon, I think. Not just what he brings to the defence, but also allowing Ethan Ampadu to get into that midfield, supplying the forwards and making that the flow of the team much better. Key player to look out for, I think, this season it's Jorginho. I think he has so many qualities. He's strong, he's tenacious, he's got a great attitude. He's great for morale, the morale of the group. He's always got a smile on his face. He looks like he could run all day. He's got loads of skills and tricks. The things that are missing are his finishing and his decision making at times. Sometimes he takes on one man too many. Sometimes he dawdles on the ball when he should just pass it. So I think if he can sort those aspects of his game out, if he can start scoring goals and finishing those big chances, he will be the Championship player of the season, no doubt about it, because he's got everything else but those two aspects of his game. One change, if I could make one change to Leeds United, what would it be? I'm just going to say Ellen Road. I think regardless of where we are, where we have been, increase the capacity of Ellen Road. It can't do you any harm if you do that. It doesn't count towards profit and sustainability. It will be a massive benefit. You won't always fill the ground, but there are games where we could get 55,000 easily. And if you look back at the history of the club, it's probably one of the lowest capacities Ellen Road's ever been since it was built. And it needs a facelift. We just need to bring the ground up to Premier League levels. And the club will make more money out of it as well if they've got more options, hospitality, half-time options, more retail options. I just think you can't lose doing that. Which team am I least looking forward to Leeds playing? This is going to, I don't know, just add to the whole hatred of Leeds fans, I guess. But I honestly don't think that there's anybody that this Leeds United team should fear. I think they can take on anybody. They should believe that they can win every single game. I think if you look at last season, there was Leicester, there was Ipswich, there was Southampton, who you'd look at those teams and you'd think really, really strong teams. When they're in form, they're playing so well. I'm yet to see who that will be this season. Thoughts on the kit? Home, not great. Big, massive Red Bull logo. Not a massive fan of that. But I think the away one is, probably one of the greatest kits ever in our history. Who do I think will win the league? I have to say Leeds United. And who do I think will be runners-up? I don't know too much about all the other teams, but I'm just going to go Burnley. A team to finish in the top 6, I'm going to say Coventry. I thought that they were really impressive, especially in the FA Cup. Did they lose to Manchester United? I think they might have lost on penalties, was it? And the teams to go down, I'm just going to say Oxford, Derby and Cardiff. I don't know, like I said, I don't know too much about the other Championship teams. I'm sorry if that is one of your clubs. I'd quite like Derby to go down. I just think it's still quite funny how much stick they gave us during that playoff semi-final. I thought they were a bit of a odd team, to be honest, and Frank Lampard and the whole Spygate thing. So yeah, I wouldn't mind them going down. Don't really care about any of the others. So that's my Championship 24-25 preview.
Johnny from the Borough Breakdown podcast. So last season for Borough then, last season was a season of what ifs, right? And I think what ifs in terms of missed chances, of course. There's always what if we didn't have all these players that are injured. There was what if we didn't have that really poor start to the season, which we lost pretty much. We didn't win for the first 8 games of the season, which was really difficult for us, which put us on the back foot as well. Put with the injuries, a lot of new signings, And although we had a really good end to the season, it just wasn't meant to be in the end, and Borough ended up finishing just outside the playoffs. However, we did get to a semi-final of the Cup, where we beat Chelsea at home, of course, which was really cool. And then we got drubbed, and well, it was catastrophically bad at Stamford Bridge. But we don't want to talk about that. But last season, yeah, I think that was it was an exciting season, it was a fun season, but if anything, it's made me more excited for this year. But the big talking point this year for Borough is, can we do it? Can we get into the playoffs, and can we even get promoted? Opta released a really cool graphic this week around Middlesbrough finishing second in the Championship based on statistics and our underlying numbers from last year, which was really cool. I think that was really nice to see where Borough could potentially be. But the question will be, can we do it? Can we do it? We have a really settled squad this year, and I think that could really pay dividends for us come the end of the season. What's different this year to the previous year is actually the squad, in terms of we have a really settled squad. We haven't really changed much. It's more so the background staff that has actually changed. Where Aaron Danks has gone to Bayern Munich. We've brought in Graham Carrick, Carrick's brother, funny enough, to come in and be one of the assistant head coaches. And in terms of the squad, it has been pretty much the same. We haven't really had many outgoings. It's only been Paddy McNair that's been the most notable person to depart. And I don't think we'll lose many more, to be honest. So we're just building and adding to the squad, which I think is the difference this year, because if you do have a really settled squad, really settled management, I think you have a really good chance of building something. And with our underlying numbers of being really good, I think we could potentially have a chance, to be honest, which I think, fingers crossed, it actually happens this year. There is no pressure on Matt Carrick. Everyone really likes him at Middlesbrough. The fans absolutely adore him. I think if we get a good start this year, keep building on what we've had over the last previous seasons under Matt Carrick, I think we'll be in a really good place. I think everyone really loves him, and I think he can't really do much more apart from get promoted, and I think that he'll go down as a really great Middlesbrough manager over the last few years, especially the Championship, where we've struggled. I think it's only been one season since 2009 since we've been out the Championship, so for him to get us up will be a big achievement, a big milestone. But I think everyone really loves Matt Carrick, and you can't really say too much about him. I think he's really good with man management. He's getting better and better in terms of in-game tactics and decisions, which is really good. And also he has that really good calm presence as well, which I think definitely helps. And also he's Michael Carrick. I think a lot of people really listen to him and have developed under him. Like Hayden Hackney has been a prime example for that. Came from our academy, had a really difficult loan spell at Scunthorpe, and then came back and has just absolutely smashed it ever since. And he's been ever present in our side for the last couple of years. So in terms of our transfer window then, our transfer window has been really quite boring, I would say, actually, because we haven't really seen too much changes. Mika Hamilton from Manchester City is coming in, and that is one we can pretty much announce right now, because he's going to have a medical. He's going to be joining for about 1 million, rising to 3.5 plus the selling clauses, and also Man City have a selling clause from that. But a right winger, which we definitely needed. Delano Bergzork has came in. Aidan Morris has came in from the MLS, and also we've re-signed Luke Gale in as well, and Harley Hunt has came in from Swindon Town as well, who will play for the under-23, so he won't actually get any game time this year. But it's been quite a boring one, to be honest. And I think, to be fair, last year we had probably too many signings, where this year it's nice to be a bit more selective. I still think we'll bring in more. I think we'll probably bring in 2 or 3 more. Mika Hamilton's obviously the one. Tommy Conway could potentially be the other. And there's always that link of Ryan Giles that could potentially happen if it does, or if it doesn't. Who knows? But we definitely need another left back, and I think we just need to add a little bit more quality. And I think we might get up there come the end of the season. So key players for us then. I think the key player for us is definitely probably Hayden Hackney, Emmanuel Elaf. They're 2 really key outlets. Finn Azaz. Obviously, you guys at Plymouth North End has very, very well, and I think we absolutely adore him at the Riverside, to be honest. I think he's absolutely smashing it. He had a bit of a slow start, but then he started to learn his role and how he could potentially develop for us. I think he's just came on leaps and leaps of bounds, and over pre-season he's been majestic. So I'm really excited to see how he performs this year. So 3 key players was Emmanuel Laugh, can we keep him scoring? Hayden Hackney in midfield, and also Finn Azaz as well, who can help create more and more chances for us if we need to as well. So in terms of any changes, I don't think we'll see too many changes from Borough this year at all. I think if anything, I think it will be more of the same in terms of statistics and style, and also normally people going out the door as well. In terms of the games I'm least looking forward to, probably Coventry. We can have beaten under Michael Carrick. However, I'm all there for the narrative. Playoff final, Carrick gets one over Mark Robbins and we go up. That would be such a great narrative, right? That is the long-term storytelling that we all want to see this year. But that's the one I'm probably least looking forward to the most. In terms of home kit then, so in our home kit, I absolutely love it. I think it's a great kit for us this year. I think our away kit is actually better. It's actually played on from our 1999 kit. 1999 to 2000 kit, whereas like blue and white stripes, it's just beautiful, and our third strip's really nice as well. But our home kit, it's all right, but pretty basic. But it'll do the job, and hopefully it's a promotion-winning kit, which everyone likes to talk about when you talk about new kits. In terms of who I think's going up, then I think Leeds United. I think it's just a very easy one. I think they've got a really good squad, good manager, loads of money behind them. It's hard to beat, really, and they should have went up last year. The team that comes second, I think Luton. They've got a really good squad still from the Premier League. They've got a great manager in Rob Edwards, a really good development coach. I think he's developing Luton really, really well. So I think that they will go up second. And in terms of the dark horses for the playoffs, I'm hoping we get there. I think Coventry will be there. Obviously, I think the teams that have come down like Burnley, Sheffield United, they'll be fighting for it. The natural people that you think are going to be in and around it will probably be there. My dark horse is actually Swansea. I'm really keen to see how they do this year. I think they've got a really good squad. They just need to keep adding to it. I think they've got it's quite bare in certain parts, but if they can add really well, I think they've got a good manager there in Luke Williams, and I think if they just get the right quality, then happy days. I think it's going to be a really good season for them. In terms of who's going down, then I think the three teams that are going down. I think Derby County are going to be finishing bottom. I also think that Cardiff could be a surprise pick. I'm not really too sure on them. I think they could either go really, really well or really poor. Underlying numbers have really struggled last year, and they've added to the squad, but I don't know if it's going to gel. I'm just kind of a bit like, I'm not too sure. But they're going to surprise people either way. They could be really good or really crap. And then the final one is Watford. I just don't really have any hope for them, to be honest. I think they're going to be quite poor this year. I think they're just really struggling for players. Lost a couple of key players out as well, and I think they'll just have a really difficult season, to be honest, and probably go down. There's not really much positive noise coming out of Watford at the moment, so I think that will probably be them, I think. But in terms of where Borough finish, I think we will finish 6th. I think that'd be a good progression from the previous year. We just need to get a better defence. I think if we sort the defence out, which we have done in pre-season with 5 clean sheets, we could definitely push for the automatics. But if we can't, then that's just one of those things, unfortunately. I will take 6th place from there, to be honest. But mate, thank you so much for having me on, and all the best for the rest of the season, and hope you do actually a lot better than what people are predicting, unfortunately. So all the best, guys. Catch you soon.
Hello. I'm Omer. I'm from That Mill Podcast. Thanks for having us on. Last season was a tumultuous season, as you could say, for Mill supporter. Obviously, we started the season with one manager, finished the season with the third manager of the season with Neil Harris. So we went from Gary Rowett to Joe Edwards to Neil Harris. 3 different identities, 3 different shifts. We was in a panic situation come February, and we brought in the club veteran to come back and save us, and he did exactly just that. We finished the season as the second best team from when he took over. Only Ipswich were better than us on the form table. So obviously last season had everything really. We lost our chairman last summer, went into the season with a bit of an unknown, had to then have a change of chairman. We've now had more changes in the upstairs with club personnel leaving, such as our CEO, Steve Kavanagh. We've also had our director of football / recruitment leave. So it's been a up and down, tumultuous time for us at SC16. So, yeah, I mean, the big talking point going into this season will be, I'm not sure what to expect, I'm totally honest. It could be, there's a lot of upheaval, not only internally, but the playing squad as well. There's been some changes. We've not really replaced everyone at the time of recording. We've still got some more transfers to make. We've made a few new signings so far. Macaulay Langstaff being one that's really grabbing the eye. Really excited to see how he does for us this season, but time will tell. You know, he's done it in the conference, done it in League Two, Golden Boot in both times. Can he do it again this season, albeit in the Championship? The problem for me at the moment with recruitment, you know, it needs to be, can we get over the line with 3 more players potentially? Because that will be a talking point, especially between now and the end of August, where can we get the service to these players? Can we get, the right personnel in through the door? We've been patient. We've not signed anyone for the sake of it, but warning signs are starting to kind of come amongst the fan base of, can we get these players in? Can we get the right people in to kind of kickstart our season the right way, really? Because the important thing for me is we need to carry that form into the season, especially the home form. Since Harris came in, we didn't lose a single game at the Den. That's got to be key this season. We only won 9 at home, and the majority came under his stewardship, albeit from February onwards. So that will be a real thing for us. Can we keep it going? On the opinion of the manager, anyway, he is popular with us. He's a club legend, albeit he's come back twice now as manager. I think he's actually had 1 interim spell as well, so 3 spells as manager. But he's our club leading all-time goal scorer as a player. Come back as a manager, done it, won promotion from League One to the Championship, stabilised us in the Championship, left for Gary Rowett, and came back afterwards. 5 years later, really. So, yeah, we love him. What's his strengths? He's a fan. He's a Millwall fan. He's adopted. He's one of us. He's a legend. What's his weaknesses? Potentially, you could say style of play. But me being a Millwall supporter, I'm not one of these ones that want us to try and revolutionise our style of play. I want us to be what we're about. 4-4-2, 2 wingers, 2 strikers, have a go, kick, bite, bollock, whatever you want to say. I want us to kind of keep to that kind of style of play. So I don't really look at it as a weakness. I guess the question is, can he evolve slightly? Because the game doesn't stop for anyone. I don't want us to be tiki-taka, pass, but at the same time, I don't want us to be just route one up to the big man, which we don't currently have, even if we wanted to play a big man. So, yeah, strengths and weaknesses for me. He's a passionate manager. He's a man manager. The players always talk highly about him and how he, is constantly leading from the dressing room and trying to make that kind of mentality of us against the world. And for me as a Millwall supporter, exactly what you want as a fan anyway. Weaknesses, I guess he's in-game management potentially, or style of play. But like I said, I embrace that about us, really. How's the transfer window gone? Obviously, we've signed 5 players, technically 4 new additions, or even 3 new additions if you talk about it from the end of last season. We brought in Liam Roberts, who's a goalkeeper, Lucas Jensen, another goalkeeper, both in League One. We obviously had the unfortunate timing of Matthias Sarkic passing away and not being with us anymore, which is another thing that's rocked the club this summer, really, because last season with our chairman, as I mentioned, this year, Sarkic, unfortunately, is no longer with us, and it's a real shock, really. I mean, we're going through a lot off the pitch, but I'm hoping, to try and spin a positive from something that is, really a negative and really a downfall in the club. But I hope we can spur it on as a positive for us. We can kick on and use that kind of added source of motivation to do it for them, especially for Sarkic. He really finished the season strong for us and would be dearly missed by all supporters and everyone that have had the club concerned, really. Liam Roberts came in, who was at Barnsley last season on loan. He was a Middlesbrough player, I believe, and he joined, obviously, us being kind of a rival to the other goalkeeper we signed, who was Lucas Jensen. So Lucas Jensen was supposedly, pound for pound, the best goalkeeper in League One, and we've plucked him up. So watch your space on that one. We've also converted the signing of Japhet Tanganga on a permanent deal. He was obviously with us last season on loan, second half of the season, played every game, was ever present, and I'm quite surprised we managed to get him over the line, to be honest, on a free transfer. I'm sure we're paying top dollar for his wages, but he's worth every penny if he can, really be the impact we want him to be this season. So, obviously, like I said, to add to that, Sean Hutchins returned. I mean, he didn't really leave. He was released at the end of the season, but we signed him back as a backup option at the back. And then, obviously, like I mentioned earlier in this video, Macaulay Langstaff, pound for pound, the best striker in the conference two seasons ago. Also one of the best in League Two this season. Last season just gone with Notts County. Can he make the step up to the Championship? Like I said, need more signings. Our new signs to watch out for me at the moment anyway, is going to be the goalkeeper, Lucas Jensen. Albeit we've got the striker in that's scored 42 goals in conference and I think 25 in League Two. I'm expecting a bit of a transitional time for him, a bit more time to kind of stabilise himself at the club. So we'll have to watch out to see how he does once he comes in with Macaulay Langstaff. Our key player this season will be tricky one. We've got a few players that could be, key players for us, but I'm going to pin it on Japhet Tanganga. He's the new signing. Obviously, he was with us second half of last season. If he stays fit, we saw the defensive record we have towards the end of the season. I think it was 13 games, 6 or 7 clean sheets. If we have him fit, and he's present for every game. He's missing the first 3 through suspension. I think he misses 2 league games and 1 cup game away at Portsmouth. But once he comes back in against Hull, which I'm no doubt he will, I'm hoping he can be, finish the season with 44 league appearances, to be honest, and be there throughout the whole duration. And if he is, I think, that will be a significant part for us in what we want to achieve this season. The one change I make at the club, I won't change anything about this club. I fucking love it. Excuse my French, but I love this club, and I wouldn't change anything about Millwall. And I want us to hold on to what we're about, really. We don't want to change anything about us. I'm least looking forward to playing this season. I'm going to say Burnley. I hate Burnley. Excuse the pun there, obviously, if you know that reference to a film. But no, Burnley's one of those clubs that I never enjoy going to away. They always seem to do us at their ground. And yeah, I'm least looking forward to playing Burnley this season for that exact reason, to be honest. My thoughts on this season's home kit: it's a kind of retro inspiration shirt from the early 90s. I like it. It's a nice kit. It's not too bad. It ticks the boxes. And yeah, I think it's a shirt at the end of the day. We always have this debate amongst fans like, oh, it looks like a training kit. Ultimately, the most iconic kits are the ones where the club is the most successful. And if we have a successful season, we'll love the kit. So ask me again at the end of the season what I think of the kit, I suppose. My league winners, going to go with Burnley. I think Burnley probably have the business to do it. I expect Scott Parker to get a job out of them and basically win the league, really. Runners up, I'm going to go for Coventry City. I like Mark Robbins. I think they're going to hopefully kick on, and I think this could be their year to really kind of cement themselves up there. So a bit of a different one there, but I think I could see Coventry City getting there. And dark horses for this season, I'll throw Oxford United into the mix. I like what they're doing there at League One when they were there last season. They've come up and really kicked on. So yeah, we'll see. The three teams I predict to go down are Derby County, Watford, and Cardiff City to be the third team to go down. So Derby County, Watford, and Cardiff City, my three teams to go down. My club this season will finish 15th place, mid-table. I'm happy with that. And that will take us to where we want to be this season. Stabilise the ship. 2 seasons with like really kind of, off the field trouble, especially last season. And, everything that's kind of happened with that. This year, if we finish mid-table, I'll be happy. I just want us to be safe by April time, basically, when the month starts there. So that's my video. I hope you've enjoyed. And yeah, catch you guys soon. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Liam Burton. I'm from the Fence End podcast, which is an Oxford United pod. So last season was very exciting for us. It was a bit of a roller coaster throughout the season. Started really well. Struggled a bit sort of December through to maybe end of February, March time. And then finished really strong and got promoted through the playoffs. The big talking point, I think, in a lot of games will be about our manager, because there's a really nice story where at 18, he was a youth team goalkeeper, spoke to one of the coaches about a few things, and it looked like he wasn't going to have the playing career he hoped for, so he got talked into going into being a coach. So he went away from Oxford. He managed elsewhere, Australia, New Zealand, India, a fair few places, and came back to a winning side, which I should imagine is harder to take over because you can't just chuck everything out. You have to manage things a bit more in terms of what you're keeping and what you're getting rid of. And then 6 months later, we are in the division above. So very exciting. And I think that fairy tale story will probably be prevalent in a lot of Oxford games. And therefore, a lot of Oxford fans like him a lot. Around that January to March time, there were lots of people calling for his head, but he didn't have his support side around him. He didn't have backroom staff that he wanted, and was coming in, and his first thought was, let's try and keep on doing what we're doing because it's working. We were second. Lost 3-0 to Peterborough a few weeks later, which made him go, right, okay, well, we're going to do some things my way now. And that didn't really click until we then lost 5-0 against Bolton. Absolutely battered the better. I mean, we were lucky it was only 5-0, to be honest. But that led all of the sort of the squad, the playing staff to go, okay, well, let's do this his way. And we did, and everything sort of came together. We had a few good results against teams at the bottom of the table. And then we were coming up to play Peterborough again, and won 5-0. And it was the atmosphere was great, the build up to it, the performance, everything was fantastic. And didn't win every game from that point to the end of the season, but we did get the momentum going. The games we lost made things more exciting and meant that on the last day of the season, at the beginning of the day, we're not in the playoffs, and at the end of the day, we are, and then we get promoted in the playoffs. It's, very exciting. I think his strengths, Buckingham's strengths, are probably he's very tactically astute, and his weaknesses, it's tough to say, because when the team weren't playing so well, I think it was largely down to the floor moving underneath him without having the backroom staff, etc. But I think maybe him being a fan is a weakness, but we haven't seen it yet, and I hope we don't. But it can sometimes get in the way. Our transfer window's been good. We've strengthened a lot at the back, but we still need a lot to do up front. In terms of our signings to look out for, as I said, not many people up front, so I think they're the signings who are like, they'll be fun to watch. But I think our key signing was probably Will Vaulks. He was our first signing, and I think it was a good signal of intent. It showed that we want championship experience. We got a player that was player of the season at the last club. I think 3 or 4 of our signings have been player of the season at their former clubs. And I just think it showed the direction we wanted to go in, and that we're willing to fight. But I think our key player at the moment in our squad will be Cameron Brannigan. I'm sure lots of people in the Championship will have heard his name because he's been linked to a few Championship clubs. He's had the chance to go to Championship clubs, but he stayed with Oxford because he a variety of reasons. He likes the area, likes the club, but also he had an issue with his eyesight a few years ago and would have, I believe, gone blind had the club not acted quickly, the hospitals not reacted as they did, and that's why he can still see and still play. So I think he felt obliged to stick with Oxford and get us promoted, and I think that now we're there, he signed a long-term contract, and I don't think he's willing to just accept that. I think he wants to fight. The change I'd make to the club is probably not on the pitch. It's not amongst the board. It's not in the backroom staff. It's in the sort of middle management commercial area. I think that sometimes they're a bit blind to what fans want. For example, our merchandise at Wembley was white and blue. Merchandise looked like Bolton's merch, which, when you're playing against Bolton, is not ideal. They did that. There's not much yellow on our website, and it's not just about those sort of trivial things. A few times fans have contacted the club and spoken to individuals about certain problems they've had, and some of the responses have been fairly condescending and rude and patronising, and that's not how a community club should run. And I think we are a community club. I think we're a really good one, but yeah, it would be that we need more communication and in the right areas. I am least looking forward to, I reckon most Oxford fans will say either Bristol City or Portsmouth. Bristol City because of Ian Manning and various ex-players. Portsmouth because of Josh Murphy. They've also got an old centre-back of ours as their manager. Personally, though, I'm going to say Stoke. And the reason I say Stoke is I'm an actor outside of doing the podcast. And I am in Panto in Stoke. So last season we lost to Port Vale at home before I went off to Panto, and that wasn't a fun experience. And yeah, just knowing a few Stoke fans up there puts me in a position where I really want to win, but then that's not necessarily nice to go up and be in that sort of atmosphere either. But if you are a Stoke fan and you want to come and see a pantomime this year, come to the Mitchell Arts Centre. I'm allowed in there. My thoughts on this season's home kit are difficult because our kit's not out yet. My opinion of shirts in general is they're all bang average. But if you get promoted in it, it becomes the best kit ever. And if you get relegated in it, it becomes the worst kit ever. Last season, I loved our kit. I didn't at the beginning. League winners, I'm going to say it's going to be a team that have gone down, will bounce straight back up. It's difficult. I'm going to say Burnley. And I know some Burnley fans, so I'm sure that gloating will happen. When that happens, runners up, I'm going to go same again and say it'll be a newly relegated side. So I'll say Luton. I think they've got a lot of fight in them. But looking forward to that game because we've got some non-league history, which it tends to be a good atmosphere there. One team to make the playoffs, dark horses. I'll say Oxford, why not? People didn't think we would last season because we struggled the season before, but that was a one-off. 3 teams I'm predicting to go down. I hate doing things like this, so I'm just going to say the teams who missed out last time and say Cardiff, Rotherham and QPR. And it's not anything about those sides, it is just because they were those 3 last season that escaped. I think Oxford United will finish 14th. I think we'll have more in us than people think. People expect us just to go straight back down, and I don't think it'll be that easy. But yeah, thanks for listening to me talk a load of rubbish. And if you want to hear more nonsense, as I've said, with a Fence End podcast, can't even say the name. And yeah, we ramble on, we talk rubbish, and that's us. I'll tell you what I'm not looking forward to. Teams thinking it's original to mock the 3 sides. We don't like it either. That's why we want to move. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Joe Bell. I'm from the Green and White podcast brought to you by Argyle Life, and I'm here to represent Plymouth Argyle in the Championship podcasters preview for the 2024-2025 SkyBet EFL Championship season. And ahead, well, last season, let's kick off there. What a rollercoaster it was. Great to be back into the Championship after 13 long and tough years away, and it certainly had its highs, but it had some pretty damaging lows. Losing Stephen Schumacher to Stoke City just before Christmas really hurt. And then we had the troubled spell of Ian Foster just after Christmas, right through to the end of the Easter weekend. But thankfully, firefighters Dewsnip and Nanscoville came in and secured 3 vital 1-0 wins at the end of the season that kept our Championship status for the new season. The biggest talking point of this season, well, that goes without saying, it will be the new head coach, Wayne Rooney. What a wonderful playing career Wayne had. Is he the right man to take Plymouth Argyle forward? Well, only time's going to tell. But I think it's safe to say there's plenty of a buzz in the national press about Wayne Rooney being back in club football. This season could be different because, well, it's going to be a harder league. Second season's always harder than your first. But I just hope that this year we have a bit more continuity about us in the Championship. We have a bit more of a steady season, not as much turmoil as we had throughout last season. Fans' opinion on the gaffer, well, that depends. I mean, it's changed a lot since he was first appointed. There was a lot of shock and surprise that Plymouth Argyle plumped for Wayne Rooney with all the names that were being mentioned. The fan base probably appointed about 6 managers by the time we got to Wayne Rooney coming in. He'll be under pressure from game 1 because of his managerial past. And this is a fan base who are pretty fed up of things going wrong. When we've just had some good things go our way. You think of the Ryan Lowe promotion and him leaving, Stephen Schumacher winning the title, and then him leaving, then the troubled period of Ian Foster. We just want a bit of continuity and a bit of success. And success really isn't anything, I'm not saying success is winning the Championship because that is incredibly difficult, but certainly success for Plymouth Argyle would be progression. Our transfer window has gone, well, I think it's gone pretty well. I think we've improved the squad in a couple of areas, certainly from the squad that finished last season. We've added some really exciting players in the forward positions. We've still got a bit of work to do at the back. We probably need 1 or 2 quality additions in the centre-back and right-back positions. But, a lot of fans are a little bit frustrated that no money's been spent, 2 free transfers and 3 loans so far. But it's still, at the time of recording, still a month to go before the transfer window slams shut. Our new signing to watch out for, well, that's nice and simple. It's Ibi Sissoko on loan from Toulouse, an attacking wide player who's lit up pre-season for the fan base. He's the one who's getting everybody off the edge of their seats. He's got all the tricks in the book. He's wonderfully gifted. He's agile. He's quick. He's pacey. And he's got a good vibe about him. There's a lot of people who really enjoy his persona and how he is in and around the club. So Ibi Sissoko is certainly our player to watch out for. As for our key player to watch out for, well, that goes without saying. Morgan Whittaker topped almost every metric in an attacking sense for Plymouth Argyle last year, and if we can keep hold of him this summer, that will probably represent the best bit of business that we will do. in the transfer window. Far too instrumental last year. Hopefully this year we have a bit of support around him to make sure he doesn't feel like it's all his own doing. The one change I'd make at the club is a real tricky one, really. I'd like to try and get as many Plymouth Argyle fans into the ground as I can. That would probably be the one change I'd look to make. I'd try and look to see how we could increase the capacity even further inside Home Park. We're now going to go into our second full season of selling out in hospitality and every game in the league, whilst we also finish League One, selling out every game in the Steven Schumacher title-winning season. So that would be the change I'd like to make. I'd try and like to increase the capacity of Fortress Home Park. The club I'm least looking forward to playing, well, they're easily the most well-supported club in the division. It would have to be Leeds United. No reason other than the fact that Leeds are just better than us, and there's a great big buzz and there's a lot of hyperbole that comes with playing Leeds United. It was a wonderful experience going to Ellen Road twice as a club last season. Played them twice at home, but that was more than enough, and the fact that we've got to do it all again this year with at least 2 fixtures is enough to make your knees tremble. So yeah, unfortunately Leeds fans, whilst I love your passion, you are easily the club I least look forward to playing this season. My thoughts on the home kit this year, well, it's a bit plain, a little bit different to the home kits that Plymouth Argyle have employed for the last couple of years that have sold very, very well. Already though, we're seeing plenty of people on the streets and in the city centre wearing the home kit, so it's obviously one that struck a chord with a section of the fan base. I would like Classic Builders to come up with a little bit more of an imaginative sponsors logo for the shirt instead of seemingly employing Times New Roman to show their name. On to the preview of the season, the league winners. Well, I do think it probably will be Leeds United, even if they do sell Crescencio, Somerville, Jorginho, Rutter and Willie Nonto is the other player I was thinking of. You know, they've still got unbelievable players in Ethan Ampadu, Dan James, players of that ilk. I think Leeds have enough depth, and if they do sell those 3, they'll have a war chest to go to war with in the transfer battle. As for runners-up, that's a real tricky one. I'd expect Middlesbrough to have a good season. They need to. Michael Carrick probably needs to have a good season. Sheffield United will be a tricky one if they can get their takeover done. Again, at the time of recording, I don't think it was gone through. You don't quite know what you're going to get with Chris Wilder these days. Luton, well, they're either going to do 2 things, in my opinion. They'll either go up or they'll go down. I don't think there'll be much in between for Luton. But I'm going to plump for West Brom. I know they lost Thomas Asante this week to Hull, but I think in Carlos Corberán they've got one of the best managers in the Football League. And I think West Brom will be strong. So they are probably going to be my runners-up. One team to make the playoffs of dark horses. Well, I can't class them as dark horses anymore because they've been there or thereabouts now for a couple of seasons. But I do think Coventry City may well finally make it up into the Premier League. I would love to see it. Brilliant football club, and it would be great for Mark Robins. If Carlos Corberán isn't the best manager in the Football League, then certainly Mark Robins is the most underrated. It is a footballing crime that Mark Robins is never linked with jobs higher up the pyramid. He's done an unbelievable job at Coventry City. I'm a huge Mark Robins fan, and I wish the Sky Blues all the best as they look to return to the promised land. The 3 teams to go down, well, this could be any 3 of about 8 or 9 for me this year. I like Oxford's transfer business, but I just think it might be a step too far for them at this stage of their development. Do wish them well on their return to the Championship. Hope they enjoy the journey, but I do think Oxford will go. Worry about Derby, not just because of their pre-season results this year. They had a very good squad to get out of League One last year, but I just wonder whether that squad can go again in the Championship. They are a little bit older, shall I say, than a lot of the teams in the Championship average age-wise, and I'm just not sure they've quite added the quality needed to stay up in the Championship. Then there's a number of teams you could throw into it. Millwall, Argyle for one, QPR possibly. You look at the likes of Preston, Cardiff, Bristol City. Could they be dragged into this fight? But I do think it hinges on whether Blackburn Rovers lose Sammy Schmodix between now and the end of August. If they manage to keep Schmodix, then I think it will be a wonderful piece of business and will give them every chance of survival. I do worry if he goes, whilst yes, they'll make some money on him, will they be able to quite replace the impact that he's had on that team. As for where Argyle will finish, I do think we'll keep our heads above water. I do think we'll surprise a couple of people. Now, when I say that, I don't mean, we're going to be on a playoff charge, but I do think that we will surprise people in the respect that we may well just finish 17th or 18th this year. I don't quite think it's going to be as bad as people make out. Obviously, people are delighted to revel in Wayne Rooney's managerial past when it comes to what he's going to do at Argyle, but I do think that this is a totally different job to one that he's had previous, and I'd like to think that he'll get time and support here to make sure that it works. And there were a couple of signs in pre-season that maybe we might be okay, certainly going forward. So I do think we'll finish 18th or 19th, and it might be a bit more of a comfortable season. Wish you all the very best for the Championship season, obviously, except for when you come down to Home Park or we come to you. And don't forget, when you are playing Plymouth Argyle, do watch the Green and White podcast brought to you by Argyle Life. I'm sure that we'll find a way to make it entertaining for you.
Hi guys, it's Ollie from Dukedale Digest, and I'm going to be previewing Preston North End's upcoming Championship season. Another one under Ryan Lowe, who I'm sure will be an Argyle favourite. We'll start with last term. Started really well, 6 wins from 7, sitting top of the league, but terrible run of form heading into Christmas when club statement defending Lowe came out and they basically backed him rather than sacked him, and that didn't go down well with a lot of people, but he did end up finding another run of results around January, February time, raised the playoff hopes once again, but the season ended with 5 defeats in a row, no goals scored, season over. Bit of a disappointment given how we started, and that kind of leads us nicely into the big talking point around North End this season, which is the future of Ryan Lowe. He finds himself heading into a third full season as North End manager, and I think it's fair to say that fans are getting a little bit impatient now. The attacking football that he promised when he took the job has still not really been seen on any sort of consistent basis. The interviews have become really difficult to understand at times, and the relationship with the fans has been really poor for quite a while now, and I don't think it'll take much for the atmosphere to turn a little bit toxic this season. So a bad start could be the end of him. The club have backed him both in terms of statements and signings. It broke the club's record last summer, but we're still yet to see really the attacking brand that he promised upon his arrival nearly 3 years ago now. He's escaped trouble before, but yeah, he's really a man under pressure before a ball's even been kicked this season. In terms of what could go differently this term, it would be nice to be positive about this, but I think most people would say the biggest change could actually be heading the other way. North End's underlying numbers last season were not good for a number of areas. I think Rotherham United were the only team worse than us, and they obviously ended up going down bottom of the league. So there is a very real chance that the big change is a reversal of that fortune in terms of those close games heading in our direction. They could easily go the other way this time around. And that is, another reason why Lowe is under pressure, really, just that the performances last season weren't really good enough over the course of the campaign. And whilst we finished in a decent position, I think a lot of people who watch North End would accept that it could easily go a different way, and that could be the case this season. As for the transfer window, we have only signed 2 players at the time of speaking. Sam Greenwood on loan from Leeds United and Stefan Tita Thordarson from Silkeborg in Denmark. I think Thordarson may be the one to watch out of those 2. He's got a bit of a presence as a box-to-box midfielder, some international experience with Iceland. Seems a pretty interesting signing for us. But we have also lost our captain, Alan Brown, to Sunderland, and Liam Miller, who was on loan last season, has gone back to Basel and won't be coming back because he doesn't want to play as a wing-back under Lowe. So that's his time at North End done, which leaves Will Keane and Mads Frokke Jensen as our key players for me. Keane is about as reliable as they come in terms of a championship striker. But Frokier maybe a little bit more up and down, but has the magic to sort of turn a pretty dull team into an exciting one. But we haven't really seen that in pre-season yet. So let's hope that the real thing brings out some good form in him. Game I'm least looking forward to this season is probably Burnley. This used to be sort of our big derby game because Blackpool were often in divisions below us and Blackburn were often in the division above Burnley. So Preston and Burnley had a great rivalry in the early 2000s. And the way they've kind of accelerated away from us is difficult to stomach at times. And even though they've been relegated, the trip to Turf Moor is a pretty daunting one these days. Just the amount of quality players they have could make it a difficult afternoon. We saw that just a couple of years ago when they just battered us 3-0 and we were never really in the game. So anything better than that we'll do this season. But also shout out for Swansea City because we just never seem to get a result when we go down to the Liberty. It's just, not a happy hunting ground. In terms of a change to make, I think a lot of fans would probably say they just changed the manager. That's where the relationship is between Lowe and a lot of fans. But I do think there's also a bit of a mindset change needed in terms of North End often seem like they're just comfortable being a mid-table championship club, happy to just keep rolling on with 11th place finishes every other year, and that's fine. But I think a lot of fans now, after seeing, Luton Town go up, Coventry have a great FA Cup run and they're challenging for the playoffs, and you see these other teams that are going up that have similar-ish budgets to the point where it's now mid-table isn't necessarily good enough anymore. And it's difficult because Preston don't have a huge budget, but we've been back in this league now for 9 years, and I think we're still finishing around the same place we were when we first came back up. So I think maybe that just a bit of mindset change to believe that we can achieve more could really help everyone. The home kit, pretty standard stuff for Preston, which is white with a navy trim, but there is a little bit of a sash on this one, which is one that I don't really think we've seen too many times before. Predictions for the season, unfortunately, I'm going to have to say league winners as Burnley. I think they still just have so many good players from coming down from the Premier League that they should get the job done. And Scott Parker, whilst he's not universally loved, I think he knows how to get out of the Championship. Runners up, thought about Leeds United here, but I'm going to give the edge to Sheffield United at the moment. I think some of their business this summer has been pretty impressive, very much suiting to a Chris Wilder team. We play them on the opening day, which I don't think will be particularly fun. A team to make the playoffs, I'm not even sure they can be considered dark horses anymore, but Coventry City, their business has been impressive since selling Gyökeres and Gustavo Harmer. They just continue to find quality signings. Mark Robbins is doing an incredible job there, and I would be surprised if they weren't challenging in the top 6 this season. Teams to go down, I've got Millwall, Watford and Derby County, but Plymouth Argyle could get dragged into it. Everyone's obviously writing Argyle off because of Wayne Rooney, but I don't think they'll be cut adrift. I think they might just have enough to stay up. And for North End, I've got us finishing around 16th as it stands. Maybe there'll be more signings to come before the transfer window closes because we certainly need them. Without those additions, it's hard to really back any sort of playoff push or even top half finish at this point. And the enormous question marks surrounding the manager mean that bottom half is probably what we're looking at this season. Good luck to Argyle this season. Cheers.
Hi, I'm James Mappin from the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. Last season was eventful, to say the least. I'm sure everyone has seen the disaster that was Xisco Munoz, one of, if not the worst start to a championship season. 10 games we went without a win. We had to wait 13 to get that first win on the board. But Danny Röhl came in, he was appointed, and, well, I would wish he was appointed at the start of last season, to be honest. Maybe it might not have been as dramatic as it was in the end. Danny Röhl came in fantastic, just gave the team some belief, playing a brand of football that we haven't seen at Hillsborough for a long, long time, maybe ever, to be fair. Front foot, aggressive. All right, we had to change that slightly come the end of the season, maybe mainly down to the personnel that we had. Obviously, the players Danny Röhl inherited. We had a fairly decent January, brought in some good additions, James Beadle, Jan Poveda, Ike Ugbo being three of them. Well, less is said about Pedersen, the better. But, 3 out of 4 isn't bad. And yeah, it went down to the wire. I didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think we were going to stay up. I thought we were going to fall short. But the momentum started building. And we finished, as one of the form sides. Only Millwall picked up more points in the last 6 games than Sheffield Wednesday did. So, yeah, really, really promising. Danny Röhl's now got a full summer ahead of him. Obviously, we're nearly finished that. We're nearly at the start of the season. He's had a full summer transfer window as well. Lots of players have gone out. Lots of players have come in, which obviously we'll get on to. But yeah, it's looking very, very exciting. And last season is certainly behind us. And all we can do as Wednesday fans is obviously look forward. The big talking point is the manager. It's Danny Röhl. You'll have seen him on the Euros coverage on ITV for those that were watching. Came across excellent. He's like that in all the interviews, very, very thorough. The players are saying great things about him. Some of the sessions that they've had have been absolutely brilliant. Players like Barry Bannon, who's obviously been around for a while, still learning new things, learning new ways of playing. And we're seeing that on the pitch as well. Like I said, some of the football that we've been looking at has been great. Yeah, I can't really fault him, to be honest. He's still making mistakes, even though I've said you can't fault him. But the main thing is that we're playing a brand of football that the players seem to be getting on board with at the moment, and it's just really exciting as a Wednesday fan at the moment with Danny Röhl at the helm, making lots of signings as well, signings in key areas, and they look very much like Danny Röhl players, which is good as well. Yeah, this season is going to be different because of Danny Röhl. I don't want to keep mentioning him on this piece, but he is the key difference to why Sheffield Wednesday and why fans of Sheffield Wednesday, like myself, are just so excited about this season. He was excited to see what he can do. We saw what he could do when he came in during the season. It's games Tuesday, Saturday throughout the season. So there's not much time to actually get the boys on the training pitch and actually work on what you want to do. He's had that time now. He's had 2 training camps. We've been to St. George's. We've also been out to Germany as well on a training camp, playing against some top sides, RB Salzburg, Werder Bremen being 2 of them. Really testing ourselves up against some decent opposition in the pre-season, which is going to stand us in good stead for this coming season. And it's going to be different because we haven't got Xisco Munoz in charge, and we're going to hit the ground running. As I mentioned, we finished the season as the form side, or one of the form sides, so hopefully we can roll that into this season. Like I said, change of personnel as well, which is going to be exciting to see how they're going to integrate into the side. A lot of younger players coming through, which obviously we'll get onto in a second. Yeah, in terms of the fans' opinion of Danny Röhl, I've never seen a manager come in and be taken to by fans as quickly as what Danny Röhl has done. I mean, partly helped by the fact that, Xisco Munoz was the manager before, but he's come in. It wasn't great at the start. It didn't hit the ground running in terms of the results. We had to wait 2 or 3 games to get that first win. Then it wasn't all plain sailing. There was some heavy defeats in there. 4-0 against Southampton, 4-0 against Huddersfield, 6-0 against Ipswich as well, which weren't great. But, we still love him. There will be a statue outside of Danny Röhl at some point if things carry on in the way that they are at the moment. We all love him. We all chant his name. And like I said, I've never seen anything like this at Sheffield Wednesday with someone being taken to as quickly and adored by as many fans as Danny Röhl is, really. Yeah, transfer window so far. Obviously, we're a couple of weeks before the start of the season as I sit down to record this. But yeah, we have been very, very active. A lot of players have left. A lot of players were out of contract at the end of the season. They have now moved on. But on the whole, we've brought in 9 new signings, 8 of them permanent, 1 on loan, which is James Beadle, which we had at the back end of last season, which is an absolute no-brainer, the goalkeeper from Brighton. Yeah, it's gone really well. We've brought in players in key areas. I still think we're lacking a few, especially in that centre mid area. We seem to have signed pretty much every single winger under the sun at the moment. We haven't really signed an out-and-out goal scorer either. Charlie McNeil's come in from Man United. He's been released from their academy. He's unproven at this level, so we're not really pinning all his hopes on him. Of course, we've got Kadamatri already, who's scored a few goals. We're hoping that we can bring in Ike Ugbo, again, another player that was on loan at the back end of last season, scored 7 goals, 6 goals in 5 games at the start when he had a bit of a purple patch. So we're hoping that we can get that one over the line before the start of the season. If not, we are going to be a little bit light in terms of firepower. A lot of wingers and forwards that maybe we're going to be playing without an actual recognised striker this season. Who knows? I don't really think Michael Smith has got it. Another player that's come in is Max Lowe from the guys down the road, a left back, to strengthen that area. We've already got Marvin Johnson, but he's more of a winger, whereas we haven't really got a recognised left back, so that's a great addition. Another one on the other side is Jan Valery. He's a player that Danny Röhl worked with at Southampton when he was there as the assistant to Ralph Hasenhüttl a few years ago. So that's another one. Should be well known to Danny Röhl, of course, who knows exactly what type of player he is. Nathaniel Shalabar, another one in the centre of the park from West Bromwich Albion. Not going to lie, I wasn't too excited by him just by looking at his numbers and the lack of game time that he's had over recent years. However, having seen him in pre-season in the couple of games that he has featured in, he looks all right, and I think he'll do quite well alongside Barry Bannon this season. The signing to watch out for me is probably Jan Valery, who I've just mentioned. The right back loves to get forward. Got an assist in the game last weekend in the pre-season friendly against Werder Bremen. Looks like he's comfortable on the ball, can run up and down the channels for days, it seems. Only 25. We got him from Angers in France. As I mentioned before, he was at Southampton with Danny Röhl. So Danny Röhl knows exactly what type of player he is. I feel like we're going to shift away from playing the back 3 or 3 centre-backs and with wing-backs and move more to a traditional back 4. And I see him as being kind of the first choice right-back. Right-backs are not like how they were years ago. They are very attacking-minded, and I see him as someone who can get forward. He can put a good cross in, and we're going to see a lot of that this season, I think. I'm going to pick someone else. I'm going to pick Josh Windass. If we can keep Josh Windass fit, which is a massive if, because we have yet to do that in the previous 3 or 4 seasons that he's been at the club. But if you can keep him fit, maybe he's going to be that player that can go and get those into double figures in terms of goals, 10, 11, 12 goals this season. If you can do that, that's going to massively help us. More than capable of doing it. It's the amount of goals that he's scored, without playing a full season has been impressive. I see Josh Windass playing as more as a number 10, but that front 4 is going to be very, very fluid. He'll be chipping in with some assists as well. His creativity and his vision is great. He created the goal at the weekend at Werder Bremen, which also saw Anthony Masaba starting on the right wing, finishing up scoring a goal from the penalty spot. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all works. But yeah, Josh Windass, certainly, as I said, if we can keep him fit, he will be one to watch this season. In terms of a change at the club, this is an easy one. And those that have followed Sheffield Wednesday, to be fair, you don't really need to follow us to know this, but it would be the chairman. Look, granted, let's give him cut him a bit of slack. Things recently since Danny Röhl's come in have been positive. He's doing things that a chairman should be doing in terms of we're making signings. We've made slight improvements to the training ground, albeit, that's probably for another discussion, but things aren't going in the right direction. Yes, there's question marks over the prices and things like that. And is there a transfer budget available? We'll see if we sign Ike Ugbo or not. But yeah, I think a change at the top is needed, especially if we need to get to where we want to be, which is, of course, back in the Premier League. We've been out of the Premier League for a long, long time, and I don't think Dejphon Chansiri is the man that is going to get us there. Look, I'm not going to fault his want for trying. He's made a lot of mistakes over his time. He's been there nearly 10 years now. Look, it nearly worked out when he first came in, but we've been paying for his mistakes ever since that. And yeah, I feel if I could make a change, that would be the one change that I would definitely make. The team I'm least looking forward to playing is probably Leeds, just because of how strong I feel they're going to be this season. We got a draw, believe it or not, at Elland Road. One of the few points that Xisco Munoz actually picked up at the start of the season. The game at Hillsborough, it was, it finished 2-0. We was in it for most of the game, but it's always a difficult game against Leeds. You would very rarely pick up points against them, although we have had some memorable wins. But yeah, I think this season, although I think the Championship is probably the weakest Championship that we have seen for a long time, I feel that, if I had to pick one that I didn't want to play, it's them. I'll also add into that derby for the only reason that Pride Park is a bit of a bogey place to go for us. We never do well when we go to Pride Park, and we've got some poor memories at that place, namely, them sending us down a few seasons ago on the final day of the season. But yeah, those two are teams that I'm not too looking forward to playing. Thoughts on the home kit? It's not a classic. It's all right. As of the time of recording, we've not got a sponsor yet, so it is sponsorless. So some of the kit purists would probably like that, I guess. People do like kits without those sponsors on there. Look, at least it's not a gambling sponsor, or there are whispers that might be happening. So maybe I'll not say that just yet. But no, I've got the kit. It's got, it's blue and white stripes. What can you do with blue and white stripes? It did look a bit Huddersfield, I have to admit, when it was first launched. Thankfully, the blue stripes are a little bit darker. But yeah, it's made by Macron. Macron makes seemingly most kits, especially in the Football League at the moment. But yeah, it's all right. If we had to talk about the away kit, that's based on the 96-98 orange away kit that people might remember Di Canio and Carboni wearing. That is an absolute banger. The only slight annoyance is that that kit had hooped socks, which as a fan, if you buy it, you will get the hoop socks. We won't be playing with those. Plain white for the first team, which I don't know why. Maybe that's because it clashes too much with the socks for the home kit. But a bit of a missed opportunity there, because it does look a bit plain. But the shirt, bright orange, looks an absolute banger, and certainly is going to be one that I'll be picking up as well. I feel like the team that's going to win the league this season, I've already mentioned them, it's Leeds United. I feel like they're just going to have too much for everyone else. As I've mentioned before, it's probably the weakest Championship that we've seen for quite some time, but they've managed to keep some of their strongest players as well from last season. I thought some of them would go. Obviously, some of them have. They've lost Archie Gray. They've lost Sinistera as well. But they have managed to keep, at the moment, they've managed to keep Ruta. They've got Bamford. They've got some really good players in that side. And I feel they probably going to have too much for us. They're going to win the league for me. My choice for runners-up in the Championship is Burnley, a team that obviously come down from the Premier League last season. They've got Scott Parker at the helm, who has got a track record of getting teams promoted from the Championship. He's done that with Bournemouth. He's also done that with Fulham as well. So he knows what's needed to get a team out of this league, out of the Championship, back into the Premier League. And Burnley have kept the majority of the squad together. I feel like that's key in doing this. Obviously, they've got the parachute payments as well, and as I mentioned before, I don't think this season is going to be too strong. I don't think Luton are going to do very well. I don't think Sheffield United are going to do very well either. So I think Burnley are going to be the best of the rest, to be honest. And it wouldn't surprise me to see them bounce back up into the Premier League. A team to make the playoffs and my dark horse pick. I'm not sure if it's too much of a dark horse pick, to be fair, but Middlesbrough is a team that I think are going to do well. They struggled at the start of the season, had a real tough start. I remember playing them in one of the, I think it was the 7th or 8th game of the season, and they were actually bottom. In fact, I don't know how we wasn't bottom, but Middlesbrough was that side. We drew that game at Hillsborough, and then they went on a bit of a run. And I think that the start of the season just cost them, a chance to get into the playoffs last season. If they keep Emmanuel Latilath, what a name, by the way. If they keep him, I know he's had interest at Monaco, but if they manage to secure his services for this season and he stays as a Middlesbrough player, he's going to be key for them getting into the playoffs. But the other end of the spectrum, teams that I feel are going to go down, The first one is Oxford. I feel like everyone's got Oxford as a team that's going to get relegated. They've been very active in the transfer window. Will Volks is one that's gone from Sheffield Wednesday to Oxford. Similarly, the other two that I've picked are Watford, and also I feel like Blackburn Rovers are the other team that are going to get relegated. Watford look bang in trouble in terms of last season. They didn't finish very strong at all. They've had another managerial change. That's a bit of a running joke now. I don't need to do it anymore. But Tom Cleverley's come in. They've not done anything in the transfer window. They've brought in a former player, 34 years old, I think he is, which not really the profile of player that you need really to do well in the Championship, I don't feel. And as for Blackburn, they are in big trouble. Sammy Smodics saved them last season. I don't feel like Sammy Smodics is going to be a Blackburn Rovers player, at the end of the transfer window. He's going to be going somewhere else. If there's no money to bring anyone in, they are really going to struggle, because there was a win. They won the last game of the season against Leicester. Had they not won that game, they would be playing League One football this season. I feel that's just prolonged it. They're going to be playing League One football next season. And yeah, those are my three: Blackburn, Watford, and Oxford United. Where I think Sheffield Wednesday are going to finish. Now, if you look on the social media, there's a lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans getting very, very excited and saying that perhaps playoffs is an actual target that's achievable. I'm being a little bit more pragmatic and a bit more sensible. I feel I've kept saying 10th, whenever I've been speaking about this, and also saying that 10th would be a good finishing position for us. I agree. It would be. If we finish 10th and you said to me, that's where we're going to finish this season, I'd be more than happy with that. I want a boring season. I want a season where we're not fighting relegation and the expectations are off. I just want to go and watch some good football and have no dramas. I said that last season, and look what happened. That was far from it. But yeah, I feel realistically we could finish 10th. We might flirt with the playoffs, and obviously, of course, I want us to do that. But the pessimist in me is saying that we'll finish mid-table, and 10th is probably a good finish for this season.
Hi, Dan Buxton here from the Every Step Along the Way podcast. Now, you can find us on Twitter, mainly at Every Step Along. We've also got a Facebook group, and we also do have other social medias, but we're not as much on them as we are sort of on a sort of X/Twitter account. Always be Twitter. We're an audio-only podcast, really, that you can find on any of the normal podcasting platforms, so iTunes, Spotify, and really anywhere else as well. We're available in quite a few places. Now, last season, I would say, we had a lot of players in last season. It was quite a transitional season. That'd be the word we'd have to use. Obviously, when you bring 20-odd players into a club, not all of them are going to work out, are they? And, they didn't really for us. There's a few star people came through off the signings, sort of Wouter Berger, Beijun Ho, Millia Manuf. So we're looking this year probably to build on that. The big talking point for us, I would say, is the lack of a striker more than anything else. We still haven't got one. So I think there's only 2 clubs in the Football League who've gone longer without a player scoring 20 goals for them. So just to put that into context, our last time somebody scored 20 goals in a season for Stoke was 2001. So 23, and probably looking at this squad, about to be 24 years since somebody scored 20 in a season. So we're not in the greatest nick there, are we? This season could be different though, because like I say, I mentioned it was transitional. Last season, we have got some real quality players. If we can add to that, keep them around, I think we could do this in this season. We've got some really good attacking players, like I say, creative players. We just need somebody who can put the ball in the net. If we can find somebody like that, then with everyone else having 12 months older and then also having 12 months more experience in the English game, then we could do something which isn't finish 14th to 16th. The fans' opinion of the gaffer is that he's actually quite well liked, I think. I think he plays some decent football. Obviously, he came in midway through last season. And the fans have taken to him. There was at one point, there was a little bit of unrest, obviously, when we were just above the relegation zone. But for me, I think they're going to be willing to give him time, and they need to. And I think hopefully we will. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for anyway. Obviously, strengths and weaknesses, the football that he plays is attractive to us, considering what we've had a lot in the past. Weaknesses, I don't particularly think we've seen any main glaring sort of problems with his management style at the minute. So we'll maybe find that out over the next 12 months. Transfer window started really well. We brought in some good experienced players, and if you looked at our squad, you would say that for a few years now we've had a lot of young players, and then we've maybe had some older players who are maybe over the hill older, talking like Aidan Flintfield, Jagielka, the real end of the careers. We've really missed them 25 to 29 people in that, where they're sort of in the prime, they've got the experience but they've still got the ability. We missed a lot of that for a few years, and I think if you look at the signs we have made, they're leaders, they're experienced, but they can still do it, the four of them. So far so good, but we still need more numbers, definitely. The new signing to watch out for, I think if you're looking at sort of the players that we have, I suppose Victor Johansson in goal is one that was quite well sought after, and we were really happy to get him in. We've had a goalkeeping problem. We haven't had a proper goalkeeper for about 3 years. We've been loaning players left, right and centre, and Jack Bonham and others have been filling in here, there and everywhere when people have been recalled or whatever, injured. So yeah, it's nice to have a proper goalkeeper who we think we can now build something around. So we'll be looking to him definitely to shine, and he's our most the one we're most excited about, mainly due to the goalkeeping history we've had. Key player, Bae-Jun-ho, I reckon. Bae-Jun-ho, 20 years old, South Korean, an absolute magician with the ball, and he's going places. Feyenoord have been interested, so we need to make sure that comes to nothing between now and the end of the window. But I think the club are saying that they don't want to sell. I think we can maybe convince him to do at least another 12 months, and if we do, with other players around him, like people like Millie Manuf and Wouterberg, as I mentioned earlier on, we could really do some damage to teams. Whether we'll be consistent enough to challenge at the top end of the league remains to be seen, but on our day I think when things click, those three in particular can really cause some damage. One thing I'd change at the club would probably be it's interesting. Well, I'm quite a positive person, so I don't see these things. So people always moan all the time, don't they? But I like to look at things from a positive angle. One thing I'd change would probably be recruitment. We had head scouts, Jared Dublin, and some people were complaining about some of the signings made last summer. But my thought is that if you bring in 23 players in a year, you can't expect many of them to be, especially when a lot of them were free transfers, loanees, really small fees. They're not going to be world beaters, are they? But for me, the outlay that we spent is going to be recouped 10 times over with the three I just mentioned, to be honest, just on those three alone. So I would bring him back because the club decided to get rid of him this summer and replace him, which I don't know why. So yes, that would be the change I would make. I bring back Jared Dublin. That's my campaign. I am least looking forward to playing. Do you know what? Usually I'd say somebody like Coventry, because they generally have the hex over us. They always seem to do well against us at our place, but it's the first game of the season, so I can't not be looking forward to that game. Yeah, I would probably say Derby then. Derby are another one who historically get good results against us quite often, especially at their place. We have had the odd sort of 3 or 4-0 defeats in recent times, and I think with where they are probably looking to be, it's going to be a massive banana skin, and if we do not win that game, it's going to look like 3 points lost, regardless of where we are in the league. Thoughts on the kit are that it's looking quite good, and we've just produced a third salmon kit, which has not long been released, and yes, people are very mixed on that. I quite like it, but it's not for everybody, is it? Red and white stripes are on the home strip, shock horror. But yeah, the badge is now in the centre, which has caused a bit of controversy. Apparently it's selling well though, so it must be going down well. For me, kit to kit, and I think you got to shake it up sometimes, don't you? Because like I say, red and white stripes every year. What more can you do? Especially we've had Macron now for quite a few years. They must be running out of ideas. I think they are running out of ideas, to be fair, because they've said that we can design our own kit next year. So I don't know whether that's like a tantrum response, like, oh, you design it yourself, or whether they had already got out of the pipeline. We'll have to wait and see. League winners this year, I think, will be Leeds United. Yeah, I think they missed out last year. I think they'll come back strong again and they'll go up. Runners up, be interesting. There's a few sides. It could be there's a few sides with a lot going on there, isn't there? I think maybe Luton, they've got a good manager there, and they've kept. I think they started planning for this season last season. They didn't go crazy in the Premier League. Kept a good, strong championship, top-end championship squad together, didn't they? Probably with the fact of becoming a little bit of a yo-yo club maybe, and making sure that one campaign that got them up, we had the opportunity to duplicate it this coming season if they went down. One team to make the playoff, dark horses. There's a few in there. A few ended the season really well under management that didn't start last season. I'm looking at Sheffield Wednesday, Danny Roll, Marty Cifuentes at QPR. If they can carry on the momentum they had last season, then probably one of those two. If I had to put my money on one, I'd probably say QPR, to be fair. The three teams I'm predicting to go down would be, it's difficult this one, hearing a lot of things issue-wise about Watford, hearing a lot of issues. I think Derby haven't really sort of strengthened. There seems to be fan unrest before the season even kicks off, amazingly, and they've just been promoted. They want the manager sacked, so they'll have to go. And joining them, I think Oxford might be all right. They've come up. I think Portsmouth will be all right. Obviously, they've just come up. I think Plymouth will be okay. And Blackburn. Yeah, Blackburn have had some, got a lot of issues as well. I think, especially if Sammy Smodics goes. And we've signed Sam Gallagher, and although he doesn't score a lot of goals, you wonder how many of Smodics' goals maybe come from work from Gallagher. And if he's not there as well, then, they could really struggle. So Stoke are going to finish top half. I'm going to push the boat out and say we'll finally crack the top half. Go on, Stoke.
Hello, everyone. My name is Graham. I am the host of What the Fog podcast, which is a Sunderland podcast, and I've been asked to put together a couple of thoughts on the season ahead, which is only a couple of days away. Really exciting, isn't it, for everyone? Up until at least 3 o'clock on Saturday, when we either drew or lost, and suddenly we feel quite sad about it all. But I think, with all due respect to yourselves and the people listening, I've been told to keep this to about 10 minutes, and last season, despite the fact it was one of the most boring, kind of pointless seasons we've ever had, if I was to sum it up in sort of a nutshell, it would take me over 10 minutes quite easily. So I'll try my best to shorten it. We started quite well with Tony Mowbray. We didn't really bring in a striker. We brought in 4 young boys that didn't hit the ground running. So we played really good football, but couldn't score goals. Therefore, we felt the best course of action was to sack Tony Mowbray and replace him with Michael Beale. It wasn't. Michael Beale lasted 12 games. It was a complete disaster. He managed to essentially destroy the place within the best part of 2 and a bit months. Then we got an interim manager who was our first team coach / assistant, Mike Dodds. He is not a manager. We won 3 games in 14, I think it was, towards the end of the season. And we were absolutely awful. I think that might sum it up. I don't know. But yeah, it was boring. We finished 16th when we'd finished 6th the season previous. I'm not saying we should have went into the playoffs straight away. It was a difficult league, but it was a disaster. We shouldn't have really sacked Tony Mowbray. We should have probably signed a striker. And if we were to sack Tony Mowbray, we probably definitely shouldn't have appointed Michael Beale when we realised that none of our original targets, such as Will Still and all that, were not planning on coming anytime soon. But it's gone now. It's over. It's done. We move forward. And I think that will be the big talking point this season is, how will the new manager do? Will we sign a striker, which we still haven't quite done? And can we get a new brand of football? Can we stoke life into Sunderland again a little bit? We had a really good sort of almost 18-month spell back in the Championship and adapted really well from League One. No worry of relegation whatsoever. And then from sort of January, the appointment of Beale and the disaster that came after it has kind of soured things a little bit. But there's hope that this season, will be different. And we will be able to bring in a striker, and that we've maybe learned the wrongs of the season just gone with recruitment, with not sacking managers too early. Like, there's a lot of mistakes that were made last season, and you can only hope that they've learned from it. Do I feel like they have? I don't know. I have my reservations on that, but, fingers crossed. Very much toes and fingers crossed that they have learned from the mistakes of last season in terms of the board, and that this new manager can hit the ground running, and that we can hopefully sign a striker. They've been asked to give an opinion on the new manager, and it's really difficult to do that, or the fans' opinion of the new gaffer. because he's so new. You know, we only have pre-season, and if we'd won every pre-season game, or if we'd lost every pre-season game, I don't think it means too much. What I would say is it looks like he wants high energy press. He looks like he wants us to play out from the back, and he looks like he has a brand of football which he's going to implement, and he certainly has a lot of talented players within that club to be able to implement that. I think on our day, if, like, I will repeat this, if we sign a striker, we are are capable of being one of the better teams in the league. You know, with Jack Clark, Patrick Roberts, Dan Neil. There's a lot of good players within that squad. I think if you can get them playing in a style and you can add what you need to the squad, there's a real chance we could push for the playoffs. But to say what is the opinion of the gaffer at the moment for us, it's really difficult because he's so brand new. Our transfer window has gone. There's not enough there. We still need to bring in some numbers in certain positions. I'd like to see at least another 3 to 4, at least 2 of them, definitely senior strikers, one that can play every single week. At the moment, we are playing with a young boy called Eliza Mayenda, who I think we signed when he was 17. I think he'll be 18 now. The alternative to that is Joe Bellingham to play up front, which I'm not 100% sure he has enough instinct to play as a sort of regular number 9. We need strikers in. I won't kind of beat around the bush with that because I've said it a million times already, but the transfer window itself, we brought in some experience, which is good, both experience in the goalkeeping department, not that he will be playing any games regularly. Our number 1's Anthony Patterson, who is 22, 23, but the experience in the dressing room is going to be really important because we lost a lot of players last season that were experienced. Again, there's a mistake that the club made last year. We sold Danny Bart, Lyndon Gooch, Alex Pritchard, and essentially Ross Stewart was sold to Southampton as well. And although he was injured, we lost a lot of players, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and replaced them with children. And when the going gets tough, those kids need someone around them to look after them and teach them how to get through sticky patches. We didn't really have that last season. I think our most experienced player was Luke O'Nien at 28. The rest were all around 19, 20, 21, 22. So we brought in some experience, both that's going to start the season in the team and also some experience in the dressing room. But we need more numbers in specific specialist positions to make it a very good window. But we've got 3 weeks, so fingers crossed we can do that. The key signing from that lot would be Alan Brown. Kind of want to repeat everything I said before, but I won't. He's 29, Republic of Ireland international. He spent nearly 10 years, if not 10 years, at Preston North End, the captain there, 400 plus championship games. He's exactly what we needed in the middle of the park, almost to a T. And he's what the fans were calling for like a long time. There's a lot of talent in there, but you sometimes need an experienced head, and he is literally the epitome of experience, I think. Our key player will be the man who sits next to him, which is Dan Neil. He seems to go under the radar in comparison to the likes of Jack Clark, but Dan Neil's our best player. He's a complete different gravy. He's been linked to Liverpool, and I know we all have our own biased opinions of our players. For me, Dan Neil's one of the best midfielders in the league, and I understand why Liverpool will be linked to him. Range of passing's excellent, temperament really, really good. Leadership for his age, I think he's only 22, is fantastic. A lot of fans think that, he could be the captain or at least be the vice captain. I just think he's a fantastic player. I think he's got 2 years left on his contract. And, if someone said to me, he can keep Jack Clark or he can keep Dan Neil, I wouldn't even think twice about which player it is that I want to keep, and that would be Dan Neil 100%. The club I'm least looking forward to playing, no such thing for me. It's not a confidence thing. I just think the way that the championship works, anyone can beat anyone. Look, if Rotherham had beaten Ipswich 4-1 last season, in fact, I think Rotherham got a draw with Ipswich at some point last season, not many people would have batted an eyelid. It's just the way the championship is. Anyone can beat anyone, so there's no team that I massively fear in this division, to be completely honest. But I also fear every team in this division at the same time, if that makes sense. The one change I would make at the club, there's evidence to say that we're changing the model of signing just young players and getting rid of any experience, young players with resale value. That would be the big change I would make if we don't continue to do that. But the fact of what I was saying before about our transfer window, Alan Brown coming in, Simon Moore coming in as a number 2. I know he won't play very often. With experience coming into the dressing room, maybe they are trying to change that. So I don't think I can give that answer. Sign a striker, a senior striker. That would be my one change I would make. at the club. My thoughts on this season's home kit, you've asked me for that. Now, that's one thing that the club have got 100% right this season. I love it. It's a 10 out of 10. Best kit we've had in decades, possibly centuries. Hummel have come back on board. You know, a lot of Sunderland fans have a real connection with Hummel. It's like a nostalgic thing. When I was young, we had Hummel kits and they were all absolute stunners. And they've brought out 2 new kits. I think there's a third one on the way as well, that are designed based on previous Hummel numbers with a bit of a kind of modern twist. The away kit has the old badge on, which I much prefer. It's the badge I grew up with, but just look at it. It's tremendous. It's a great kit. I don't think anyone would say either of the kits are awful. And if you do, then I don't agree. I think they're amazing. 10 out of 10. And I bought them both, and I think the club have sold out completely of adult sizes on both of them within days, despite having numerous drops of the kit. So, you know, I'm not the only one to think that. For me, the league winners will be Luton. I really think they've got a good manager in Rob Edwards. I also think they've got a decent team without losing too much in the summer due to relegation. I think their season in the Premier League would have done them really, really good. I think when they went up, they were very, not hitting hope, but they were the sum of the parts. They were a team. They did stuff that benefited what they were, which was, you know, big physical team with strength. I think they've now added intelligence to that. I think the season they have within that Premier League will have really helped them, because the levels between the Premier League and the Championship for me are absolutely massive. And they almost kind of kept their head above water. If they'd had maybe a better start of the season, maybe they would have done. And I think the fact that they almost did means they're going to come down a completely different beast. And I think they'll go straight back up because they haven't lost too many players. And I think the additions they have made have been relatively decent. The runners up, my head says Leeds probably. I don't think Leeds will be down here for too long. Got beaten in the final of Southampton in the playoffs last year. I don't foresee Leeds storming it in the second. But I do think, even though they've lost the likes of Somerville and whatnot, and Cooper's obviously moved on, although he wasn't playing every week, he is their captain. I think they've got enough within that to be one of the more consistent teams in the league, which I think is pretty much all you need. So I think Luton to win the league. I think after that, Leeds go up. My one team to make the playoffs, I think people are going to be surprised at this, but I quite fancy QPR to do something. I think Cifuentes is a really good manager. I think he did a really good job with them last year. I think he's been able to do a little bit with his summer signings. I think that they're in a better position than they were, because I know that they were kind of held back a little bit by budget and previous regimes and stuff like that. I think they've got a little bit more leeway. And I just think they look like a team, like an organised team. And sometimes that works in this division, just being organised. If you ask me for a dark horse, I think Cardiff could do a decent job. I think there's a lot of chat around Aaron Ramsey coming back last year, but I think they've signed a lot better this year. They brought in Callum Chambers, Al Ghazi's come in, you know, players who have played relatively at high levels. I think Premier League for Callum Chambers almost all of his career. But like I say, the golfing class between the Premier League and the Championship, I think, is huge. So I think those players are going to come in and make a real impact. And they've got the likes of David Turnbull. They've been linked to, I think, Todd Cantwell. So there's players within that squad that can win you a game in an instant. There's no reason they can't push a little bit further up the league. The teams to go down, it could be anyone really. I really don't feel like Oxford have done enough. They've lost their best player, Portsmouth, sorry. In Murphy, I like Oxford. I've got friends who are Oxford fans and I really like to see them do well, but I don't see how they do that. I do feel, even though Portsmouth took Oxford's best player, that Portsmouth are also going to struggle, which I'm sure they won't want me, although they won't want to hear, they won't like me saying, because they spent longer than League One than we did. And trust me, it's painful, as you guys know as well. And outside of that, I'm tipping Bristol City. I just feel like Bristol City are a bit of a period where nothing's really happening for Bristol City. You look at the players they've got, you know, they've got Sam Bell, I know Tommy Conway's on his way out, but they have got good players. They've got a manager that's got a bit of a reputation for playing nice football, although he did pretty much relegate MK Dons, but he did a good job with MK Dons the season before that, got them in the playoffs and X, Y, and Z. I just feel like Bristol City are sort of in a period at the moment where they don't know if they're coming or going. The signings have been not bad. The squad is not bad, but I just feel like sometimes momentum is a really big thing in football. but it could be absolutely anyone that goes down. It could be anyone that wins the league. It could be anyone that's runners up, and anyone could be the dark horse. This league is anyone's, whoever wants it, in my opinion, a lot of the time, or a Premier League club with big parachute payments. That sometimes helps as well. I'd like to think Sunderland can make a push for the playoffs, but I'm definitely speaking sort of heart over head at the moment. I don't think the squad is strong enough for a promotion push, but there's 3 weeks to go in the window. That could change things. So I'll say 8th at the moment, and fingers crossed we can get in the right players and the right signings and push on and maybe go for a 6th place finish, 5th place finish. But yeah, hopefully that's give you a bit of a lowdown on Sunderland and what to expect from us next season.
Hello everyone, Luke from Swanscast here. Just doing our pre-season video to share everything about Swansea City with you. So we are Swanscast. You can find us on all the major platforms, YouTube, Spotify is where we put out all of our content. And you can find us on most social media as well, most active on Twitter. Just type in Swanscast and you'll hopefully catch all of our stuff. Okay, so last season then, 14th was our finishing position, a very average season for us. I think 14th really maybe even flatters what was quite a roller coaster of a season, a mid-table finish, but for quite a large part of it, we looked like maybe being part of a relegation battle that we luckily, I guess, or just about managed to keep the right side of and didn't quite get sucked in and dragged into, but teetering on the edge of that. Started the season with a new manager, going into a new style of play. Russell Martin obviously moved to Southampton, so kind of highlights the style that we used to go for, more of a possession-based system. Michael Duff coming in and he tried changing it to more of a direct and high press system. Said he was going to bring more goals. I think, to be fair, he did back that up and it was a couple more. But unfortunately, the defence was all over the place and the results definitely didn't follow. And because the results didn't follow, the fans not very happy at all with the style of play shift. We like to do things done a certain way. It's called the Swansea way. And Michael Duff wasn't really in tune to that. He didn't really endear himself either to the fan base down here. He made some very questionable comments about a biggest match against Cardiff, our rivals, kind of brushed it off as a nothing game, and he just couldn't recover from some of his not so great media comments that he tried downplaying things, and there was no connection with the fans. It just wasn't set to work out for him. So he moved on early December. We managed to transition into Luke Williams by January with a caretaker period in the middle. So it says it all about our season, really. But looking to perhaps push on now. Luke Williams managed to steer us away from relegation eventually, even though the first few matches under him were quite rocky. But his task was to go back to more of a possession-based system. So doing that mid-season was quite difficult, and I think that proved against the bigger and better teams that were more towards the top end of the table that did definitely put a few goals against us. But I think over time, signs were there that maybe we were going in the right direction again. And going into this season, that's kind of what we're optimistic to see. So this season could be different, as I mentioned already, because we're going back to a possession-based system. And I know Luke Williams differs from Russell Martin, even though they worked together before. Our clubs, very similar style of play, but Luke Williams will be quite vocal to say that he's more interested in bringing more goals than perhaps what we saw here at Swansea under Russell Martin. Time will tell if we'll see that. We didn't quite see it yet under him, but the recruitment this summer suggests he also understands that and he's trying to look at rectifying it. The fans' opinion of the gaffer is actually quite good. They're quite happy to see us revert back to this style of play. Obviously, it's his first full season now. He's had a first pre-season, first proper transfer window to get his own players in, to put his own stamp on the team, really work on his tactics. We're quite excited to see what we can do, I guess, when the season starts. And the pressure perhaps isn't there at the moment, but, it only takes a couple of bad games at the start of the season to start building. So we'll see what it's like in a couple of weeks' time. Our transfer window has gone pretty slow, actually, but it is taken along, actually, I think, under the radar a little bit now. Been a bit of movement in the last couple of weeks, and we've signed a couple of players for quite left field leagues and teams, actually. Not many clubs perhaps looking in these areas. I think we're looking for the gems in those quieter sort of shopping areas, if you like. We actually made a signing yesterday. That's probably the one to look out for in Zan Vipotnik. Apologies if I've said his name wrong, but he's been signed on a free transfer from Bordeaux, who obviously got into difficulties recently, which is not a nice story from their part. But his contract was mutually terminated due to their financial troubles. He's a 22-year-old Slovenian international striker. He scored 10 goals in the French League 2 last season. He scored, I believe, 1 goal in 10 caps for Slovenia. He did go to the Euros as well and did feature. So definitely a sort of transfer that's raised some eyebrows, and not just within the Swansea circles either. So one left field, no one was expecting it. Obviously, I guess they've pounced quite quick after the situation there, but really excited to see what he's going to offer us going into the season. As a striker was definitely an area we needed to recruit in, especially after Jerry Yates moved on earlier this summer on loan. In terms of the other players that have been added, we've signed a goalkeeper, we've signed a centre midfielder who's looking to perhaps bridge the gap between midfield and attack, and also an exciting winger from South Korea. So he can play on the left or in the centre attacking midfield. And again, that's where we're looking to add is creativity, add a bit of pace, add some goals. We've got Josh Ginelli coming back, who hardly featured last season, who was signed last summer. So he's going to act as a little bit of a new signing for us too. So yeah, a little bit of excitement to come in, I think, to the team early season, and time will tell whether they prove to be successful. Our key player will be, and why, that's got to be Mac Rhymes, as always. He's our captain. He's ever present in the midfield for Swansea. I think he's one of them players you see in the stats that get put up every now and again, that plays every minute of every match, and he does it all the time for Swansea. You know, he's ever present by definition of the word. But he also makes Swansea tick, especially when we play in a possession-based system, obviously now reverting back that way. If you can stop Mac Rhymes, you generally can stop Swansea. But if he has a good game, he keeps Swansea ticking. He recycles the ball, spreads it out, keeps it moving left, right. He does pass back and sideways quite often. But with the game plan, he's doing that on purpose, because that's what he's there to do, to try and spread the opposition and create the gaps. But then he also has the quality, when there are the gaps, to play that ball through the middle. And his assists in the last couple of seasons have actually been very strong, considering how deep he actually sits in the midfield. Okay, the one change I'd like to make at the club would be, now, I don't know specifically from my point of view, in terms of playing or club personnel that way, but I do definitely would love to see better options on the concourse at Swansea. I think we're quite poor. I think there's so many clubs in the Championship doing a better job than us here in terms of utilising perhaps the outside space around the stadium as well on match days. I don't think we do enough at all for the fans in regards to this. You want to make it a little bit more of an event, offer some good food, offer some bars around to get people coming in early, getting excited for the game. And I guess shortening the queues as well is a big deal. Half time, I know there's a lot of grounds that let you go outside where they've got bars outside and stuff, and it really does make a difference in those grounds that do it compared to the ones that don't. And unfortunately, I think we are one of the ones that don't, and it is a little bit frustrating. I think we can definitely do more. They tried to improve the hospitality quite a lot. Inside hasn't really been great with what they've tried doing. I think there's a lot more they could do. I'm least looking forward to playing Stoke City, and there's no real specific reason other than the fact that they used to be quite a bogey team for us, especially when Sam Klukas played for them. There's a lot of bad memories there, especially away from home, so just one I don't always look forward to. My thoughts on this season's home kit, very positive actually. I quite like it. We've got a big orange sponsor in the middle called Reviva Coffee. It's quite perhaps a difficult colour to work with, but when we were wearing white as our home kit, I think they've done a good job this season anyway of having that orange sponsor, but they've also added an orange trim to the home kit, which I personally think looks quite smart and sleek. And we've generally used copper quite a lot in recent years because of the history around Swansea being Copperopolis and the industrial era around that. And the stadium is actually in an area where they used to have a lot of factories and process a lot of copper work stuff, which is where that all comes from. But the orange is kind of like an easy transition from this copper, so it kind of fits in with the branding and the colour scheme we were already kind of going with in terms of the club and the history. It's a slight change obviously from copper to orange, but in line with the sponsor it does actually look quite nice. It does work quite well. League winners then, I think it's quite difficult to call this season. Last season I think it was pretty straightforward maybe, and it's easy to say that in hindsight, but this year not as straightforward in regards to the teams coming down. I don't think they're all going to walk the park as easy as they did last year in terms of the relegated teams. They should still all have a good time though. However, one of the relegated teams last year that didn't quite make it over the line, Leeds, I think might have a good chance this time round. I know they've had to move some players on, but second year in the league, I think they were on to a good run of momentum, definitely the second half of the season. And I would expect to see them continue to try and perhaps win it this time. Runners-up, Burnley. I think they come down as perhaps the strongest team that's been relegated, for me anyway. I know Company has obviously left and moved on, but I do think they're probably going to have enough to really mount a good challenge to go straight back up. One team to make the playoffs, or dark horse, is... It's really hard to call a dark horse, I think, this season. I could say Swansea City, but I really don't think it's going to be the case. I'm going to say Coventry. I don't think they're necessarily the biggest dark horse, but one that perhaps isn't nailed on to make the playoffs. They didn't quite get there last year, and it wouldn't shock me to see them return to that sort of area of the league table. 3 teams are predicting to go down. Again, a really difficult one. Torn between a couple of teams. I think it's going to be quite tricky for some of the ones that came up from League One, as always is the case. But Oxford, for me, really good result for them to get to the Championship, and I hope they give it a good go, and I'm sure they will really give it a good account to themselves. But I think it might be a little bit too much for them this time. And I've got Derby County joining them, not necessarily saying what order, but again, they've been out for a while, and I think it will be a bit tough. But we'll see. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. And Blackburn. There's been a couple of big clubs threatening to go down in late. Obviously, we had Birmingham go last year. Blackburn were nearly there. I just think the signs don't all look great for Blackburn, so we could see them perhaps head back down going into next season. Where will Swansea City finish this season? So we finished 14th last year, half a season with Luke Williams. I think he will build. Probably won't quite be what we want. We want to mount a playoff push. We want to mount a promotion push. Maybe it's a bit too soon for that. So I'm going to say 10th, and I think that will be good progress, as it probably will still be a little bit of a bumpy ride. Championship always is. I think it's never easy for any teams, but I think 10th would be a good solid result, considering the other teams that we've got and the situation we are currently in financially. Our finances available. I know a lot of other clubs are in the same boat, but they are going down year and year in terms of where we were when we came down from the Premier League, and they're starting to show a little bit, I think. And some of the movements we've had to make in the transfer window also show signs that we perhaps haven't got the luxuries that we used to have. So, that's my preview video. So thank you everyone for listening, and I'm sure we shall all chat again through the season. Thank you very much.
Hi, Chris Hall here from Albion Analysis Podcast with a big pre-season preview. So last season, our big talking point, I think, it was the ownership change. To be honest with you, it was vitally important to the survival of the club. I think we're starting to see things drip out now as to exactly how bad it was and how close to being in real trouble of things like administration, possibly insolvency, we actually got. Yeah, I mean, the last season was a success on the pitch, but also the biggest thing last season was sorting out the ownership, because under Lie, we were only going one way, and that was the kind of way that we've seen the likes of Derby do. But could be even worse. We could have been another Bury or someone like that. So that was the big thing there. This season could be different because, and not in a good way, in terms of on the pitch, but off the pitch it could be positive, because we are sorting out the finances. We're trying to get the wage bill down. There was a slightly sensationalist story from on Sky Sports saying about bigging up some enforced business plan from the EFL. We've been working to a business plan since Shilan Patel took control of the club to try and bring down our wage bill, because Rongole and Lie, etc., hampered us with some really big wages and big contracts that we couldn't afford. We're starting to try and ship those out the door. So on the pitch, whether it brings success, I've still got faith in the team because of Carlos Corberán being the manager, but whether we can turn over the squad and bring down the wage bill to the degree that we're trying to, and at the same time maintain the successes that we had last season that obviously took us to a playoff semi-final, remains to be seen. As for the fans' opinion of the manager, I don't think there's many Albion fans who have anything other than a fantastic opinion of Carlos Corberán. He is, for me, the best manager in the division. I think he's doing an unbelievable job in incredibly difficult circumstances, and I think he's the reason that we can have a lot of confidence in a season when we have to turn over the squad. He's incredibly organised. He knows his style of play. He gets information across to players brilliantly, and I will always be positive and relatively upbeat about the Albion for as long as he's manager, because I think whatever group of players we have will overperform under his stewardship. The new signing to watch out for, we haven't made many. It's not that easy. I've got a little feeling that after he beds in, that Ousmane Diakate could be one that really stands out in this division. He was tipped to be a rising star in the Austrian Bundesliga when he made a list of 5 players alongside people like Dominic Szoboszlai and Karim Adeyemi and people like that. So he was in incredibly good, strong company then. He's had a couple of serious injuries. He's come back from those. He had a strong season last year at Hartberg. He's joined us on a free. I think he could be a really, really big player for us. He might need a little bit of time to bed in, and pre-season it's kind of looked like that, but I think he could end up being a big player for us. The one change I'd make at the club, if I could wave a magic wand and fix the finances, of course I would. I don't think there's that much else that I would change drastically, because I think we're on the right track. I still think that work needs to be done to get the recruitment department back to where it was before Gauchon Lai took charge of the club, because he decimated that. But we have seen signs this summer that Ian Pearce and his team are scouting much further abroad. We're trying to find value in far-flung corners of the globe, rather than just buying the really obvious players released by other Championship clubs or by Premier League clubs. So I think that's a real positive. Which club am I least looking forward to playing? I don't know. I don't really worry too much about other clubs. I suppose there feels like there's an inevitability that Brandon Thomas Asante will score against us for Coventry. So maybe I'll go with Coventry. There just feels like there's that sort of ex-player inevitability to that one. Other than that, the concourses at Preston are an embarrassment. So not really looking forward to the awful queues there again. But at least we've lost the outdoor queues for a drink at Huddersfield. So I suppose there's that positive for us. My thoughts on this season's home kit are, I think it's smart. I like it. Collar. I like a collar on a football shirt. I know that splits opinion, but I personally I quite like it. I'm not a fan of the away. Nothing against Oxford United, but it looks like an Oxford United shirt to me. I realise it's supposed to be a little bit of a throwback to one from I think it was the late 70s or early 80s, but it doesn't look brilliant to me. I really like the pink third kit. I think that's smart. I don't think Macron have necessarily quite delivered. I think we were all quite excited when we saw they were our new kit manufacturer, because I think they produced some decent kits for other clubs. Not sure they really have delivered for us, but there you go. League winners, I think it's hard to look beyond Leeds. I know they've lost a few this summer with Archie Gray going, Crescencio Somerville to West Ham. But we know they'll reinvest that money, and they had a really strong squad last season. And to be honest, if they hadn't had a bit of an iffy start to the season, I think it was 2 wins from the opening 7 games, I think they'd have probably won the league then. So yeah, I think Leeds. In terms of runners up, it's hard to look beyond the relegated clubs, isn't it? Burnley. If I was going to go for a dark horse to gate crash the top 2, I think it would have to be Coventry. I just think they're really building towards something. I think they've got a couple of strikers. They've added Brandon Thomas-Asante. I don't think Jack Redoni necessarily weakens them, having lost Callum O'Hare. I think they're just as strong, and they got those front two coming on really strong. I think bringing in Binks permanently is a really good deal. I think there's a heck of a lot to like about Cov this season, to be honest with you. As for the three teams I'm predicting to go down, I think it's really hard this year, because I think whereas last year you could look at it and say there were a number of teams that looked in a total mess at the start of the season. Wednesday and Huddersfield weren't doing any business. Rotherham looked weak. I don't really look at it and think that there were any really, really weak teams. So I think the one in a massive mess is Watford, and I think they will go down. I don't really know what's going on at that club. It just seems like they're sort of going from sort of one mess to another. I think Oxford will probably go, just because I'm not sure they've quite got enough. And then beyond that, sorry, Aaron, I think whilst you've got Wayne Rooney in charge, Plymouth probably, to be honest with you. But sack him early enough and maybe I give you a chance. And in terms of us, Albion, it's hard at the moment because we've lost so many first team players. We haven't, at time of recording in very early August, we haven't had chance to replace them just yet. At the moment, I'd have us on the sort of just outside the playoffs, sort of like 8th, 9th. But if we do a good job of replacing the likes of Thomas Asante, Townsend, Okay Koslu, then we might be much, much higher than that. We could finish similar to where we were last year, because Corberan's a great manager. But at the moment, without knowing who we're going to bring in, it's hard for me to predict us to be any higher than just outside the playoffs, because we are weaker than we were when last season ended. So I will go with 8th or 9th, but that's with the caveat that that we've still got a heck of a lot of business to do, probably about as much business left to do as anyone except maybe Hull in this division. So yeah, I think we could look much different as a side when August the 30th rolls around, and if we do in a positive sense, then we could be a real threat this season.